Chapter 464. No, why not? Xiao Wu didn't understand. Daming and Little Moon can change their sizes freely. It's not a problem for them to hide in this forest. As for Xiao, Ying, and Erming, it's pretty good for them to study here. We can also watch them in real time. There was a reason why Xiao Wu didn't worry about the risk of soul masters being discovered. This was because Lin Feng had used a special soul skill as Thanos before. It could conceal the aura of soul beasts and prevent them from being detected by other soul masters. Under such circumstances, Xiao Ying and Erming wouldn't be discovered. This was why Xiao Wu had such a thought. Soon, Lin Feng explained, after the Soul Master Alliance gets on the right track, I'll bring you to a place. It won't be a short time, and I won't have time to care about Xiao, Ying, and the rest. This is why I don't want them to come. Otherwise, if they come here and we're not around, it won't be easy to solve if something happens. After this matter is over, we can bring them over. I see. Xiao Wu understood. Then, she asked curiously, Feng Ge, where are you bringing us? It's a secret. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Anyway, it won't be long. It should be within this month. The matter of the Sea God's Island couldn't be explained in a short time, so Lin Feng couldn't be bothered to explain. He would just bring them over when the time came. All right, the Snowy Night Emperor just left, and the Soul Master Alliance is developing rapidly. Xiao San, you have to watch over these things. Otherwise, you'll have to spend time learning if you don't understand. Soon, Lin Feng brought Tang San to the Alliance's headquarters. Xiao Wu didn't like these things, so she went to play with Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing. As for the Soul Master Alliance, many Soul Master organizations brought their resources over to exchange for contribution points. This was a very important matter, so Lin Feng put Flanders, Zhao Wuji, and Lu Erlong in charge of it together. Ning Fengji also sent people to assist. The goal was simple. It was to ensure the integrity and stability of the data. Because there was no high-tech system to keep track of things, they could only rely on special paper to keep track of things. Furthermore, the resource exchange points, the mission hall, and the item exchange points were all together. This was the only way to ensure that the data would not be wrong. Otherwise, if these points were separated, it would be a big problem to proofread the data. Because of this reason, Lin Feng would ask the masters to develop a reasonable bookkeeping method after they had officially developed the telephone. A computer or something like that would take a long time to manufacture. Lin Feng would let the masters study it, but it was not a short-term goal. It was a long-term plan. Currently, the bookkeeping method he wanted was just to develop a few simple instruments. If she completed the 9th trial, as long as all her soul rings were increased by another 5,000 years, her second martial soul would have 7 100,000-year soul rings. Furthermore, after rank 100, she could add 2 more soul rings. At that time, the number of 100,000-year soul rings on her body would reach an astonishing 12. Bibi Dong's strength would also become incomparably terrifying. Of course, these were just Bibi Dong's thoughts. 100,000-year soul beasts weren't so easy to kill. This kind of soul beast's intelligence wasn't low, and it was powerful. Usually, its whereabouts were very hidden, and even Bibi Dong would find it difficult to find it. Even if she found it, unless she carried out an encirclement in advance, the soul beast would probably be able to escape. It was the same for 95,000-year soul beasts and above. They weren't so easy to find. The 90,000-year soul beast she met 3 days ago. After 10 battles with it, Bibi Dong discovered that it only had 91,000 years of strength. Therefore, for the time being, Bibi Dong wasn't in a hurry to hunt for qualified soul rings. She still prioritized stabilizing her strength. While thinking of this, Bibi Dong flew towards Martial Spirit City. At the same time, on the plains in front of Martial Spirit City, Thanos had already waited for half a day with some experts from the Soul Master Alliance. Half a day ago, Thanos came over with more than 10 titled Douluo and directly announced outside that they were going to attack the Martial Spirit Palace. At that time, he wanted to put on an act and force BB Dong to come out. At the same time, he wanted to find out the specific situation of Martial Spirit City. If possible, Thanos would make a move to earn some experience points. But now, half a day had passed. Although Martial Spirit City had been waiting for the attack, and even the Soul Master Legion had been moved to the city walls, Lin Feng hadn't seen BB Dong at all. However, after such a long time, Lin Feng still hadn't seen BB Dong. BB Dong didn't respond when they called out to him. Not only BB Dong, but Thousand Dao Lu also didn't appear. However, the other titled Douluo in the city had appeared, and the other Soul Masters had also released their martial souls and were ready for battle. During this half a day, Tang Xiao, Yu Yuanjin, and the others had cursed a lot with the Soul Masters of the Martial Spirit Palace, but they didn't officially start the battle. As for Lin Feng, his avatar Thanos didn't move either. His main body and many clones began to search around the city. He felt that the state of Martial Spirit City was not right. He was afraid of being ambushed, so he searched the surroundings. At the same time, he was also looking for BB Dong's location to find her. But after half a day, he didn't find anything. This wasn't right. There must be something wrong. He didn't block the escape route of Martial Spirit City at all, nor did he besiege the city. Under such circumstances, it was very easy for them to send someone to inform BB Dong. Lin Feng even gave BB Dong half a day. Logically speaking, BB Dong should have returned by now, but she still didn't appear. This time, Lin Feng couldn't take it anymore. There was no need to fake an attack, just attack directly. He could sense that there was only one demigod in the city, Thousand Dao Lu. Even the second high priest, Gold Alligator Douluo, was nothing. Under such circumstances, perhaps Lin Feng could directly lead his men to attack the Martial Spirit Palace. After all, most of the Soul Masters in the city, as well as some elders of the Martial Spirit Palace, were on the city gate. Among these people, the mobility was very fast, and only a few could fly. Lin Feng's men were all titled Douluo. They could bypass the defense on the city gate and directly attack the Martial Spirit Palace. As long as they worked together to kill Thousand Dao Lu, they would occupy the small mountain in the city. Even if the Soul Masters came back to their senses and wanted to attack them. Because of the terrain, they wouldn't be afraid. That was the plan, and speed was the most important thing. Thinking of this, Lin Feng's main body and clone teleported into Thanos' body, and his strength recovered to its peak. At the same time, he said to everyone, "I feel that BB Dong shouldn't be in the Martial Spirit City. There are only two powerful titled Douluo in the city now. One is the head priest, Thousand Dao Lu, and the other is the second high priest, Gold Alligator Douluo. These two should be in the Martial Spirit Palace or Douluo Palace. Most of the other Soul Masters in the city have run to the city gate, which is some distance away from the small mountain in the middle of the city. I think this is a good opportunity. Why don't we just attack the Martial Spirit Palace?" Originally, with BB Dong and Thousand Dao Lu, Lin Feng might not be able to defeat them with these people. He was prepared to be arrogant for a while and run away. Then, he would come back a few days or a week or two later and continue to be arrogant. Anyway, the interval was not fixed. After a few rounds of this group of people could only stay in the Martial Spirit City. BB Dong and Thousand Dao Lu did not dare to run around, or they would directly destroy the Martial Spirit City. This way, Lin Feng could take people to the Sea God's Island to take a look without worry. But now, after half a day, Lin Feng could be sure that BB Dong was really not near the Martial Spirit City. Maybe he had gone to do something. This was a good opportunity for them. As long as they could destroy Thousand Dao Lu and take control of the Martial Spirit City, then ambush BB Dong, the process of unifying the continent could be brought forward. Lin Feng was not worried that BB Dong was going to attack Heavendo City. This time, he came with a phone in his hand. At the same time, he also installed a signal transmission tower along the way, which was equivalent to opening a phone line from Heavendo City to Martial Spirit City. Under such circumstances, as long as there was any trouble in Heavendoe City, Lin Feng could quickly rush back. Are we really going to fight? Aren't we here to scare them? Dusty Heart was stunned and asked. When they set off, Thanos said clearly that they should not really fight, and that it would be fine to just scare them. So now, everyone was a little confused. Plans can't keep up with changes. Thanos smiled. Now is the best time to destroy the Martial Spirit Hall. As long as we seize this opportunity, the Martial Spirit Alliance's goal of 2 years can be achieved today. Everyone was a little hesitant. After all, they were not mentally prepared. The sudden battle caught them off guard. Thanos saw everyone's hesitation and said, "Okay, it's decided. Thousand Dao Lu is the strongest, and I will block him. As for second, Reverend Gold Crocodile Douluo, Eldery Fang will take care of him. As for the others, adapt according to the situation and try to end the battle quickly." This was a good arrangement. The 2 strongest on their side would block the 2 strongest on the other side. Before the other experts of the Martial Spirit Hall could quickly return to defend, they had a great advantage. "Okay, I will take care of second Reverend." Hong Yifeng nodded. He was completely convinced by Thanos. Therefore, he didn't have any objections. As for the others, they were still hesitant at first, but Thanos' Overlord was so sure that it was not much different from an order. They could only make a move. Seeing that everyone had nodded, Thanos said directly, "Everyone, go in from the left side." In an instant, Thanos led a dozen titled Battle Pet warriors and Douluo to the left side of the Martial Spirit City. On the city wall, many soul warriors have been keeping a close eye on those people. The Martial Spirit Hall members quickly tried to set up a defense. However, those titled Battle Pet warriors were all flying in the sky. Most people could do nothing to them. The titled Battle Pet warriors Douluo reacted quickly. They let out a long whistle. That was a warning to let the Martial Spirit Hall members know that Thanos and the others were attacking. At the moment, in the Pontiff's Palace, the Martial Spirit Hall members were having a meeting. After hearing the whistle, they flew outside without hesitation. It just so happened that Thanos and the others had arrived at the city as well. The 2 sides stared at each other. One was in the sky and the other was on the ground. Time seemed to have stopped. The next second, Thanos shouted, "Kill them." With that said, Thanos activated all his soul rings. His soul power spread out. He was the first to dash forward. His target was the 1,000 Dao Lu. The others behind him all had their own targets. While being possessed by their martial spirits, they also dashed forward and engaged their targets. Chapter 466. The battle was on the verge of breaking out, even though someone from the Martial Spirit Hall had warned them in advance. In the end, Lin Feng and the others took the initiative and attacked first, causing Thousand Dao Lu and the others to panic. When they met the attack, they seemed to be at a loss. Especially Thanos' Overlord, who rushed to the front. He started with a raging flame sea of fire. Thanos gathered a lot of soul power for this attack, and it was an indiscriminate attack, including everyone on the other side. Even the buildings below were within Thanos' attack range. Under such circumstances, the people from the Martial Spirit Hall were in a passive position. "How dare you?" At this moment, Thousand Dao Lu shouted. Soul power surged from his body, and the 6-winged angel martial soul appeared instantly. His 8 black and 1 red soul ring also appeared. At the same time, his 7th soul ring shone, and Thousand Dao Lu's entire body emitted a dazzling golden light, so bright that everyone couldn't open their eyes. He held a pure white sword in his hand, and Thousand Dao Lu swung it. The golden light carried a huge force and directly collided with Thanos' sea of flames. Boom! With a loud explosion, an unparalleled power spread out in all directions. Because of this, the charging momentum of both sides slowed down a little. However, Thanos wasn't someone to be trifled with. He spread out his lightning wings, and the long rod in his hand quickly lengthened and directly smashed towards Thousand Dao Lu's head. The latter sneered, "You actually dare to fight me in the sky. You're courting death." Douluo was one of the 3 peerless Douluo on the continent, and Thousand Dao Lu was the best at fighting in the sky. It could be said that the sky was his home ground, and his strength could be maximized. Therefore, when he saw that Thanos wanted to fight him in the sky, he felt that it was very interesting. "You'll be the one to die later." Thanos chuckled. He knew that Douluo's angel martial soul was good at fighting in the sky. But so what? Was he not good at fighting in the sky? Because of the uniqueness of his martial soul and the foresight he had when choosing his soul skills, Lin Feng had always regarded himself as an all-round soul master. No matter if it was the sky, the sea, or the land, Lin Feng could fight and display his full strength. Back then, in order to practice aerial combat, Lin Feng had tried to live in the sky for an entire week. He had even chosen to sleep in the sky. Under such circumstances, his aerial combat ability was not weak at all. Thanos struck again and again, and in a short period of time, he had clashed with the Thousand Streams dozens of times. Below, in front of the Pope's palace, Douluo and Su Ping were fighting in the plaza where the competition took place. There were a total of 11 titled Douluo on Lin Feng's side, including the Golden Ring Douluo, the Sword Douluo, and the Howling Sky Douluo. Most of the others were at least rank 96. On the Martial Spirit Hall side, there were only 6 reverends other than Thousand Douluo. Even though they were all at least rank 96, they weren't a match for Tang Wulin. After all, it was almost 2 against 1. They had to work together and use their combination skills to barely resist him. However, this situation couldn't last for long. Dusty Heart and the others knew that time was tight, so they activated their martial soul true bodies and used their strongest state to fight their enemies. They only wanted to finish off their opponents quickly and help Thanos deal with the Thousand Douluo. As long as they destroyed the Thousand Douluo, the Martial Spirit City would no longer be a threat. No matter how strong BB Dong was, he wouldn't be able to do much. This was the plan, and they were all doing their best. The elders of the Martial Spirit Hall were also rushing back to provide support. However, there was still some distance between the city gate and the small mountain. Thanos and the others were able to rush over so quickly because someone had used an auxiliary-type soul skill. It would take at least half a minute for reinforcements to arrive. This short half a minute was enough for Dusty Heart and the others to break through the defenses of the 6 reverends. In the sky, the battle between the Thousand Douluo and Thanos became more and more intense. "Old man, you have some skills," Thanos said as he dodged the attack. It had to be said that the old man, Thousand Douluo, was really strong. At this moment, he was only relying on his strong recovery ability to barely resist. Furthermore, the golden light from the Thousand Douluo's martial soul had a special attribute that would slow down the flow of his soul power and weaken his strength. Also, his angel domain increased his strength and made him very powerful. Under such circumstances, if no one helped him, he would have to run after Thanos fought for a while. Now, he could only continue to delay until Dusty Heart and the others killed those reverends. Then, they would come to help him. "Today is the day you die." Thousand Douluo snorted coldly, and his attacks became even faster. He also saw the situation below and knew that the situation was urgent, so he was prepared to use his killing move. As the guardian of the angel god, Thousand Douluo was not far from the angel statue. He could borrow the angel's divine power to increase his own strength. However, this kind of borrowing power was the same as BB Dong's. He had to pay a price, so Thousand Douluo wouldn't use it. But now that the situation was urgent, he had no choice but to use it. As he thought about it, the 8th soul ring on his body shone, and the 6 wings on his back suddenly spread out. Feathers that emitted a golden light flew out and instantly wrapped around Thanos' body, trapping him. At the same time, he raised a long sword in his hand, and a dazzling golden light illuminated the surroundings. The aura on his body also rose rapidly. At this moment, Thanos felt the threat of death. Furthermore, the light feathers had wrapped around him, and he couldn't even use teleportation. At this moment, he couldn't care less about saving his skills and used the Thousand Douluo. In order to save his life, he used the 4 skills in his soul bone: Blood Fiend, Spatial Imprisonment, Wind, Invisibility, and Hasa. In an instant, a violent wind whistled in front of Thanos. The power of space was mixed in the middle, and even the surrounding space cracked. His eyes turned blood red as he stared straight at the thousand Daos Lu, affecting his mind. The four great soul skills were used at the same time, and a huge soul power fluctuation instantly broke through the thousand Daos Lu's restraints. Thanos quickly retreated and dodged. Although the thousand Daos Lu was strong, Lin Feng's soul skills still had an effect on him. After shaking his head, he came back to his senses and shouted, "If you don't die, they will die." With that, the thousand Daos Lu didn't hesitate and directly rushed towards Tang Xiao and the others, try to help the other consecrators. Thanos wasn't worried at all and shouted, "Everyone, surround and attack the thousand Daos Lu. Leave the rest to me." The lightning wings on Thanos' back flapped, and he turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed towards the other 6 consecrators from another direction. If the 6 consecrators attacked together, Thanos wouldn't be a match for them. However, his healing abilities were strong. As long as they didn't kill him, he could hold on for a while. However, the thousand Daos Lu didn't have such a strong recovery ability. Even if he borrowed his god power, he wouldn't be able to hold on against 11 powerful titled Douluo. After all, the rules of Douluo's world were like this. There was a limit to one's strength, and this limit couldn't allow the thousand Daos Lu to fight against 11. Of course, the thousand Daos Lu knew this. Therefore, for the sake of his own life, he changed his path in the air and rushed towards Thanos. "Old man, you're so cowardly." After cursing, Thanos didn't continue to go down. Instead, he started to dodge. The thousand Daos Lu had been strengthened by his god power and was stronger than before, especially the sword in his hand. Thanos felt a great threat from it. If he was hit, he might be seriously injured. Therefore, he could only keep dodging and stall for time for Dusty Heart and the others to finish off their opponents. However, at this moment, in the sky 1.5 miles south of Martial Spirit City, BB Dawn was rushing towards the Martial Spear Hall. When she was more than 5 miles away, she felt a huge fluctuation of soul power in the city. She knew that something must have happened in the city, so she was rushing with all her might. BB Dawn was extremely fast and made a lot of noise. While Thanos was fighting, he had been paying attention to the surroundings. He was afraid that BB Dawn had been lying in ambush to give him a fatal blow at the critical moment. It was because of this caution that he found BB Dawn at the first moment. Douluo judged the distance and speed of BB Dawn, and then looked down at the 6 title battle pet warriors who were trying their best to fight back. After a simple calculation, Thanos knew that they wouldn't be able to kill the 6 title battle pet warriors before BB Dawn arrived. Therefore, they had to run for their lives. If BB Dawn arrived and delayed them until the Martial Spirit Hall's reinforcements arrived, they wouldn't be able to leave. With that thought in mind, he shouted at once, "Everyone retreat with me." Before the attack, Thanos had said that everyone had to obey orders. Therefore, as soon as he gave the order, no one hesitated. They stopped and retreated with him. At the same time, BB Dawn had arrived above the gate of the Martial Spirit City. Seeing this, she shouted, "Keep them here." Those people had taken advantage of her absence to fight their way into the Martial Spirit City. BB Dawn was furious. She wanted to keep everyone here, since she was much stronger. However, the warriors of the Martial Spirit Hall didn't have the strength to stop her. Apart from the 1,000 streams, the other 6 warriors had consumed a lot of their soul power by using their joint skills to defend against the fierce attacks. They would have run out of soul power in a few more seconds. This kind of experience of walking on the line between life and death still left them with lingering fear. Now that the pressure had been lifted, they only wanted to run to a safe place. They didn't even think about stopping the enemies. Besides, if they tried to stop the enemies, they would be risking their lives. As for the 1,000 Dao Flow, these 11 people were charging straight at him, and their soul power was incomparably powerful. No matter how strong he was, he wouldn't dare to take the joint attack of 11 people head-on. Therefore, by the time BB Dawn arrived above the Pope's palace, Thanos and the others had already retreated to the city gate. It had to be said that BB Dawn was so angry that she wanted to chase after them. However, Thanos discovered that other than Douluo and her, no one else followed. Thinking of this, he shouted, "Everyone, turn around and kill BB Dong." Everyone stopped and attacked BB Dong at the same time. BB Dong seemed to be a little arrogant. He felt that her aura wasn't strong. He didn't expect her to dare to face the joint attack of 11 people at the same time. While Thanos was facing the 1,000 streams, he felt a little puzzled. But soon, as the soul rings appeared on BB Dong's body, her aura suddenly rose and reached the state when 1,000 streams didn't borrow her divine power. And faintly, Thanos Lord also discovered that BB Dong's martial soul phantom had a double image, and her aura had risen another level. This was a small detail that no one noticed except for Thanos. He knew that this must be BB Dong's second martial soul, and there were several soul rings on it. Under such circumstances, BB Dong's strength was so strong. However, BB Dong had overestimated herself. Her strength had increased too quickly, and she was a little arrogant. The combined attack of 11 titled Soul Masters Douluo had exceeded her imagination. Under the collision, Dusty Heart, Tang Xiao, and the others were unharmed, but BB Dong was seriously injured. The Spider Emperor Phantom on her body was shattered, and she was sent flying, vomiting blood. At the last moment, BB Dong realized that the impact was too strong and used her life-saving soul skill. Otherwise, she might have been killed by that blow just now. Damn it! The 1,000 streams was angry. He ignored Thanos and turned to slash at the 11 people. At this moment, the 11 people had just launched a joint attack, and there was a gap in their soul skills, so they couldn't use their full strength and could only block. Under such circumstances, the 11 of them were actually sent flying by the 1,000 Dao stream by more than a mile. At this moment, if the 1,000 streams chased after them, he might be able to kill a few people while they were exhausted. However, he couldn't chase because Thanos was already rushing toward BB Dong. He could only defend, or BB Dong would die. Just like that, the 1,000 streams blocked Thanos and protected BB Dong. At this moment, the titled Soul Masters and Elders of the Martial Spirit Hall, as well as some powerful Soul Masters Dao, surrounded them. Those consecrated Soul Masters also ran over while using Soul Stones to recover. Under such circumstances, Thanos couldn't do anything. With that thought, he clashed with the 1,000 streams one last time and borrowed the Force to quickly leave. For a moment, Thanos led the 11 titled Soul Masters Douluo and stood in the air above the city wall. On the opposite side, the seriously injured BB Dong was being treated quickly, while the 1,000 streams led the other titled Soul Masters Douluo to confront Thanos and the others. At this moment, Thanos also knew that it was impossible to destroy the Martial Spirit Hall. BB Dong was seriously injured, but he wasn't dead, which meant that he could recover and exert great strength. Besides, the people of the Martial Spirit Hall had gathered. They had no chance at all. It was a pity, but they had achieved their goal, or even exceeded it. With that thought, Thanos laughed. The Martial Spirit Hall is just SOSO. We'll come here often. The others chimed in with a smile. That's right. We'll come here often. After laughing, without waiting for 1,000 streams and the others to say anything, Slayer Overlord immediately left with his people. Seeing this scene, the faces of the Martial Spirit Palace's people were extremely ugly. They were a little worried about what Thanos said. Chapter 467. According to what Thanos said, they would often come to harass them. One had to know that their Martial Spirit City was almost destroyed today. If BB Dong hadn't arrived last, 1,000 Douluo wouldn't have been able to escape after the 6 worshippers died. At that time, the Martial Spirit Hall would also turn into dust and be annihilated. If Thanos really brought people to harass them, the Martial Spirit City would become extremely dangerous. There was only one possibility, and that was that they would be safe if BB Dong and 1,000 Douluo were around. Otherwise, the Martial Spirit City would be in danger if any one of them left. The main reason was that Thanos and the others were all titled Douluo. If they launched a blitzkrieg, it would be too dangerous for them. Was the Martial Spirit City not on guard? Of course not. Ever since BB Dong had led his men to ambush the Soul Master Alliance, Martial Spirit City had quickly started to set up defenses. Not only were they on guard in the city, but they were also arranging for patrols. Not only did they patrol the city, but they also planted spies in the various cities of the Heaven Do Empire. If there were any abnormalities, they would immediately report it. However, these precautions were targeted at the Soul Master Army. Only large-scale movements of people would be monitored. For a blitzkrieg like today, they wouldn't be able to detect it at all. The Soul Masters in the Martial Spirit City also understood this logic. For a moment, everyone was a little anxious. They were all worried that the next time Thanos and the others appeared, they wouldn't be able to stop them if they launched a sneak attack. As for Soul Kings and Soul Emperors, they would probably be casually killed by a powerhouse like Slayer Lord. As for Soul Sages and Douluo, they probably wouldn't be able to block more than a few moves. Furthermore, that was under the condition that they had the chance to activate their martial soul true body. Otherwise, if the other party really launched a sneak attack, they would still be killed in one move without even having the chance to react. Even a titled Douluo might not be able to hold on until reinforcements arrived. The chances of them dying were very high. For a moment, many Soul Masters in the Martial Spirit Hall were worried, and panic was spreading. Thousand Dao Lu saw this scene. He knew that if he didn't do anything, the people's hearts would be scattered. With that thought, he held his sword and pointed it at the sky. As his soul power spread out, everyone was bathed in a golden light, and their restless hearts calmed down. At the same time, he shouted, "Everyone, return to your original positions and increase your vigilance." The angel's divine light had the effect of calming one's heart and healing one's spirit. Under such circumstances, everyone entered their previous defensive state in an orderly manner. The only ones left were the higher-ups of the Martial Soul Hall and a few healing-type Soul Masters. The threat brought by Thanos was extremely severe. Even if the Thousand Dao Flow was one of the three peerless Douluo, it was still unable to solve this problem. He needed to discuss with everyone and come up with a solution. Not long after, with the help of several healing-type Souls Daw, BB Dong's injuries were mostly healed, even though he hadn't fully recovered. Let's return to the Pope's Palace for a meeting. BB Dong turned around and flew towards the Pope's Palace. During the battle, just now, BB Dong knew that there was only one reason why she was seriously injured. She was too arrogant. Now that she had learned her lesson, she would definitely not make the same mistake again. No one said anything, not even Thousand Dao Lu. They followed BB Dong back to the Pontiff's Palace. At this moment, the atmosphere in the Pontiff's Palace was a little gloomy. Most people were worried about Thanos and the others and how they were going to solve this problem. As for Thousand Dao Flow, he was thinking, why did BB Dong's strength increase so much after going out and coming back? Because the two of them didn't get along, Thousand Dao Flow didn't pay attention to BB Dong. Therefore, the current situation made him very puzzled. But at this moment, the Martial Soul Hall was in a life and death situation. If BB Dong wasn't there, he couldn't handle it alone, so he didn't think too much about it. At this moment, BB Dong spoke. "Tell me, what happened before? Why did Thanos bring people over?" As soon as she returned, she found out that Thanos had called. She didn't know the reason at all, so BB Dong was still a little puzzled. Hearing this, Gui Mei immediately stepped forward and said, "Your Majesty, half a day ago." Very quickly, Gui Mei explained what had happened. BB Dong muttered, "Thanos asked me to come out? How did he know that I left the Martial Soul City?" One had to know that when she left, because it was to participate in the 8th exam, which was very important to BB Dong, she didn't tell anyone about her whereabouts at all. And when she left the Martial Soul City, she left quietly. Logically speaking, no one should know her whereabouts, right? Half a day ago, when Thanos came, Gui Mei and the others thought that BB Dong was in seclusion in the Pope's Palace. Someone secretly reported the information. There's a spy in the Martial Soul City. For a moment, this guess appeared in everyone's mind. But soon, they all rejected it because no one knew that BB Dong had left. BB Dong also realized this and quickly said with a frown, "There should be expert from the Martial Soul Alliance monitoring the Martial Soul City." She only spent 3 days out this time, and Thanos and the others came half a day ago. In other words, the time in between was a total of 2.5 days. And her departure was very secretive. Even if someone found out that she was gone, it would probably be a day later. Under such circumstances, there was only 1.5 days to react. If there was a spy, Thanos and the others wouldn't be able to rush over. So there was only one possibility, and that was that the Martial Soul Alliance had sent experts to monitor the Martial Soul City, and there were at least 2 of them. These 2 people were monitoring the 2 sides of the Martial Soul City. Because the city was surrounded by planes, if someone left, there was a chance that they would be discovered. In fact, BB Dong's guess was very close, but he guessed wrong about the number of people. Because from the beginning to the end, only Eagle Douluo and Bai Shuiyang were monitoring the Martial Soul City. He was lucky when he found BB Dong. During that time, he happened to be patrolling in the sky, so he found traces of BB Dong. Martial Soul City is being monitored. Everyone was in disbelief, because during this period of time, there were soul masters patrolling the city walls. Under such circumstances, they were monitored. Those soul masters were really useless. BB Dong continued, "It's not important now that we're being monitored. The most important thing is to solve the problem of Thanos. Tell me what method you have." Reporting to Your Majesty, I suggest that we strengthen the patrolling of the city's soul masters and let us elders and consecrators join in the patrolling in shifts. Yu Guan said, previously, when soul masters were patrolling, it was usually some soul emperors and soul kings. This was already a very strong defensive force. Previously, only soul elders and soul ancestors were patrolling. In Heaven Do City, the patrolling soul masters were weaker. Generally, the patrolling soul masters were only soul grandmasters. Therefore, soul emperors patrolling were already very high standards. After all, the Martial Soul City had a wide field of vision. Thanos and the others couldn't launch a sneak attack like BB Dong did last time. But today, Thanos and the others used a living example to show them that even if someone was on guard, there was no way to stop their rapid attack. This group of people was too strong, and they couldn't catch up at all. Now, only titled Douluo and other soul masters were participating in the patrolling, and soul masters were deployed everywhere in the city. Under such circumstances, forming an inescapable net would give them a chance to stop Thanos and the others. After Yu Guan gave a suggestion, Golden Crocodile also said, "That's right, we should strengthen our defense. Also, Your Majesty, please stay in Martial Soul City. Otherwise, we won't be able to stop Thanos and the others' attack." Although these words were a bit hurtful, the invincible Martial Soul Hall had fallen into such a passive situation. But this was the truth, and they couldn't continue to be arrogant. That's right now. After a while, the elders and consecrators of the Martial Soul Hall expressed their opinions one after another. In general, they all recommended strengthening the defense. After all, Martial Soul City was the root of the Martial Soul Hall. They had no place to retreat, so they could only defend it to the death. Even Thousand Daos had the same idea. Only defense was the best way. In fact, if the Martial Soul Hall didn't care about Martial Soul City, they could choose another method, which was to attack Heaven Do City together with all the titled Douluo, just like Thanos and the others. But the possibility of this plan was too low. On one hand, Thousand Daos wouldn't leave Martial Soul City. On the other hand, this was a battle between the Martial Soul Hall and the Alliance of Soul Masters. When they invaded Heaven Do City, Snowy Night Emperor sent someone to Martial Soul City to warn them that if they dared to invade again, the Heaven Do Empire would declare war on the Martial Soul Hall. Under such circumstances, the Martial Soul Alliance had a natural advantage. While thinking about this, BB Dong finally made a decision. Then our final plan is to defend. From today on, the defense in Martial Soul City will be strengthened. Elders and consecrators will also participate. At least 3 titled Douluo will patrol together. It will be a rotation system. Ghost Elder will be in charge of the secret sentries in the Heaven Do Empire. Make sure that information is flowing smoothly, and while BB Dong was making the final decision, Thanos and the others were also having a meeting on a small mountain to the northwest of Martial Soul City. Air. Actually, it wasn't a meeting. They were mocking the Martial Soul Hall. In the past 3 years, the Martial Soul Hall had been a real threat to the Heaven-Do Empire. Ning Fengji's alliance had even been disbanded. Under such circumstances, they all started to hate the Martial Spirit Palace. Even the reclusive powerhouses had a bad impression of the Martial Soul Hall after they were ambushed. Under such circumstances, they had a great time fighting the Martial Soul Hall. In particular, they had severely injured Bibi Dong in the end. That made them very excited. It was great, but it's a pity that we didn't destroy the Martial Soul Hall. Tang Xiao sighed. The Clear Sky sect had a blood feud with the Martial Soul Hall. Therefore, he was the one who felt the most pity. There's no hurry. Even if we miss this opportunity, the Martial Soul Alliance will destroy the Martial Soul Hall in 2 years. Thanos smiled. The battle had given him more than 700 million experience points. That, in addition to the experience points he had plundered from the 13 captives a few days ago. Currently, he had 8 billion experience points on him. In a few days, they would attack the Martial Soul City again. Or, if they fought a few more titled Soul Masters, Douluo, he would be able to obtain a second million-year soul ring. When that happened, Lin Feng's strength would increase by another level. Even if he couldn't defeat Bibi Dong and Qian Daolu, he would be able to suppress one of them. I believe in the alliance. It's just a pity, Tang Xiao said. Everyone knew how fast the Soul Master Alliance was developing. They believed that the Martial Soul Hall would be destroyed in 2 years. It's not a pity. Let them live. We'll come back for them in the future. Smiling, Thanos Ball looked at the flying eagle Douluo and said, Bibi Dong is very smart. After this battle, she should have guessed that there are people on our side monitoring Martial Spirit City. Therefore, Elder Shui Yang, in the future, when you monitor Martial Spirit City, don't get too close to it. Just pay attention to whether they have entered the Heaven-Do Empire's territory. Bai Shuiyang was at rank 96 and was very fast. But if Bibi Dong attacked, it would be difficult for him to escape. That was why Thanos said that to ensure his safety. Yes, Bai Shuiyang nodded. I'll have to trouble you, Elder Shuiyang. Thanos said loudly. All right, the Martial Soul Hall hasn't sent anyone after us. I don't think they'll come out anytime soon. Let's go back first and come back in a few days. Just like that, everyone rushed back to Heaven-Do City under Thanos' command. They weren't in a hurry to go back just now because they wanted to see if the Martial Soul Hall would come out. Lin Feng's doppelganger had been monitoring the Martial Soul City from the sky the whole time. Whether they wanted to sneak into Heaven-Do City to launch a sneak attack or sweep the area clean, Thanos and the others could find an opportunity to do something. However, Bibi Dong was very cautious and didn't come out. It seemed like she was going to hide in the Martial Soul City. Thanos couldn't do anything in this situation. Everyone else had also expended a lot of soul power, so it was best to hurry back to Heaven-Do City to recover. Just like that, they spent more than 3 hours rushing back to Heaven-Do City. Because they had expended too much soul power, everyone quickly recovered. Even Lin Feng had used a large number of doppelgangers to observe the surroundings for half a day. After that, he had devoted himself to fighting the Thousand Dao Stream. He had also expended a lot of soul power. Now that they were back in Heaven-Do City, he went straight to sleep. Of course, under such circumstances, there were still powerful beings standing guard in the Alliance. Lin Feng hadn't brought all of them with him because he was prepared. Otherwise, Lin Feng wouldn't even have a place to cry if Bibi Dong and the others launched a sneak attack. Titled Battle Pet warriors like Douluo wouldn't be able to recover in a day if they had expended a lot of soul power. It took a full 3 days for everyone to fully recover. As for Lin Feng, not only had he fully recovered, but he was also very excited, because his experience points had exceeded 10 billion. Chapter 468. In these 3 days, Lin Feng only needed 1 day to recover. For the remaining 2 days, he would spar with the captives every day. He even used the excuse of giving pointers to spar with Douluo and the others who didn't go to Martial Spirit City 3 days ago. Under such circumstances, his experience points had only just broken through 10 billion. The reason was that he had been sparring with these captives too many times recently. Originally, he could earn hundreds of millions of experience points from these captives a day. However, in the past 2 days, he was only earning tens of millions a day. Lin Feng estimated that if he continued to squeeze these captives dry for a few more days, they wouldn't be able to give him any more experience points. After all, they had shrunk too much, only 1/10 of their original amount. In fact, if Lin Feng wasn't lacking experience points, he wouldn't have held on to them like this. These captives had all been traumatized by him. Now that he had reached 10 billion experience points, these captives would have to recuperate for a while. At least for half a year, Lin Feng wouldn't spar with them. Without them, Lin Feng still had another group of people, such as Dusty Heart, Tang Xiao, and the others. When a monthly exam came, he would be able to plunder experience points. Normally, he could also give them pointers. Lin Feng didn't plan to spar with this group of people every day like he did with the captives. That way, the experience points would quickly decrease. He would spar with each of them twice a month. This way, the rate at which the experience points decreased would be greatly reduced, forming a sustainable development. Of course, this wasn't the main point at the moment. The main point was that he had 10 billion experience points again. What he needed to do next was to upgrade his second soul ring to the million-year rank. And when he upgraded his soul ring, a large amount of soul power would be released. Little Moon would be able to use this to break through the 100,000-year limit. In fact, this overflowing soul power could be absorbed by soul masters, let alone soul beasts. However, relatively speaking, this kind of soul power was more suitable for soul beasts to absorb. This was because soul masters would cause their own soul power to become unstable if they absorbed it. Even someone like Xiao Wu would feel a certain amount of soul power floating after absorbing it. Back then, she and Tang San were at rank 73 and 72 respectively. Now, Tang San was at rank 73, but Xiao Wu was still the same. There were no signs of a breakthrough. Moreover, Lin Feng estimated that if Xiao Wu wanted to break through, it would take her at least 3 months. Only then would the soul power in her body return to normal. Because of this drawback, Lin Feng didn't plan to bring Xiao Wu and the others along for this breakthrough. He wanted to return to Mani Forest alone and let Little Moon and Daming absorb it. Because soul beasts lived for a long time and cultivated for an extremely long time, their foundations were very stable. Absorbing soul power wouldn't be a burden at all, so this type of soul power was only beneficial to them. While thinking about this, Lin Feng didn't stay in Heaven Do City for long. After announcing that he would be in closed-door cultivation for a period of time, he quickly rushed to Martial Spirit City. After all, he wasn't in Heaven Do City. In order to ensure his safety, he had to make a trip to Martial Spirit City to intimidate Bibi Dong and the others. Otherwise, if Bibi Dong really went all out and brought people to launch a sneak attack, Lin Feng would be in trouble. With Lin Feng's current strength, his speed was extremely fast. It didn't take long for him to arrive near Martial Spirit City. He didn't look for Douluo. Instead, he took a detour and came to the Star Luo Empire. Then, he faintly emitted soul power fluctuations towards Martial Spirit City. These fluctuations were very subtle. Only experts like Thousand Dao Lu and Bibi Dong could sense them. It was because of this that they were extremely vigilant, thinking that Thanos had brought people over again. Everyone, be alert. Patrol. Bibi Dong suddenly rose into the sky above Martial Spirit City and shouted. Immediately after, Thousand Dao Lu also flew out and looked at Lin Feng with a serious expression. Seeing this, Lin Feng didn't hesitate and slipped away, heading straight for Nodding City. He had already achieved the effect of disturbing, so there was no need to waste time. In the sky far north of Martial Spirit City, Douluo was retreating towards the north. Just now, he was about to get closer to continue investigating, but he didn't expect Bibi Dong to appear with Thousand Dao Lu. Their auras covered half the sky, making him think that he had been discovered and was running for his life. After a few minutes, Douluo came back to his senses and realized that he hadn't been discovered at all. Elder Miao was right. This mission is quite dangerous. It's too scary. After half a day, he carefully went back to investigate again. At this time, In Martial Spirit City, because of Lin Feng's soul power fluctuations, another emergency meeting was held. Although Thousand Streams and BB Dong didn't really see Thanos Overlord, that aura was definitely not wrong. It was definitely Thanos Overlord preparing to bring people to ambush them. Fortunately, they discovered it in time, so the other party gave up on attacking. Regarding this, they couldn't do anything and could only continue to be on guard. Half an hour later, Lin Feng and Thanos appeared in Monty Forest. Because of his identity, Lin Feng couldn't break through by himself, so he could only call Thanos every time. It was still very quiet in the depths of Monty Forest. Xiao Ying and Erming had gone to school, so only Daming, Little Moon, and Tang Hao were here. The two sides weren't familiar with each other, and Daming liked to sleep in the water, and Little Moon liked to be quiet, so it was so quiet. However, when Lin Feng and Thanos appeared, the place instantly became noisy. Daming came out of the lake, and Little Moon dragged the tree roots and ran towards Lin Feng. Tang Hao also appeared, but this time he wasn't holding Ai in his arms. Ian was already planted on the ground, and the entire depths of Monty Forest was filled with blue-silver grass. These blue-silver grass were all Ian's clones. When Lin Feng arrived, the blue-silver grass cheered for him, expressing their gratitude to him. Ian knew that it was because of Lin Feng's help that she was able to revive so quickly. Furthermore, her son, Tang San, was also brought out by Lin Feng. With all these great favors added together, she really had no way to repay them. Little Moon, you'll be able to transform today. Soon, you'll be able to go to school with Xiao Ying and the others. Lin Feng said as he plucked a fruit from Little Moon's branch. Originally, Little Moon, who had its fruit plucked, was a little unhappy, but when it heard this, it immediately waved its branch excitedly. Yeah, Daming said in surprise. It's the same as last time? As he spoke, Daming looked at Thanos with a face full of shock. The power from back then was still fresh in its memory. Daming knew that Thanos was extremely strong. That breakthrough probably shook the entire Stark Do Great Forest. But it never expected that how long had it been? Again, Daming was sure that this was definitely not a breakthrough. Otherwise, if that power was a breakthrough, what would it be like again? Becoming a god? This was obviously not becoming a god. So Daming knew that Thanos definitely had a big secret. But it was smart and wouldn't ask. Tang Hao was the same. This Marvel family was extremely mysterious, and Thanos was even more mysterious. He was curious, but he would never ask because he was a smart person. As for Little Moon, this guy was silly and didn't realize this at all. Its mind was filled with thoughts of going to school with Xiaoying. It was so happy. That's right, Mr. Destroy is about to break through again. Lin Feng didn't explain anything. He quickly said, Little Moon, you can absorb the soul power later. Today is the day you can transform. Lin Feng had just sensed Little Moon's soul power. It was already 98,000 years. With a million-year soul rings advancement, it wouldn't be a problem for it to transform. Little Moon nodded its big head happily. Yeah. Lin Feng continued. Daming, you can absorb it as you see fit. Also, the blue silver grass can absorb a little. As his voice fell, the 1,000 manipulation ruler appeared in Thanos' hand and instantly covered everyone. Immediately afterward, 10 billion experience points quickly disappeared, and Lin Feng's 8 soul ring instantly broke through to the million-year level. With the previous experience, everything happened silently this time. Previously, because he was weak, he couldn't even seal his own aura. But this time, the aura of the breakthrough didn't leak out at all, and the overflowing soul power was all controlled within the 1,000 manipulation ruler's round cover. Little Moon squeaked and quickly absorbed the soul power. Its aura was also rapidly expanding. In just 10 seconds, Little Moon directly broke through to the 100,000-year level and chose to transform. Daming wasn't in a hurry to absorb. After seeing Little Moon successfully transform, he began to absorb again. As for Ian, she didn't stay idle and also began to absorb. However, Ian was the weakest one, and her absorption speed was far inferior to Little Moon or Daming. She could only get a small share. But even so, the blue-silver grass was growing rapidly, and its age was getting higher and higher. 50,000, 60,000, 70,000. Time also passed quickly, and soon an hour had passed. At this time, Little Moon had completely transformed. Lin Feng's 1,000 manipulation ruler flew out and dressed him. Yeah, yeah. He stretched out his hands and asked Lin Feng for a hug. He's really stupid. He actually doesn't know how to speak. While shaking his head, Lin Feng also picked up Little Moon. When Xiao Wu was teaching Xiao, Ying, and Erming, Little Moon was clearly listening at the side. Logically speaking, after Little Moon transformed, he should be able to speak immediately. But the truth was that this guy didn't know how to speak a single word. It seemed that Little Moon was definitely lazy during the lesson. After teasing him for a while, Lin Feng suddenly raised his head and looked at Daming. The current Lin Feng's main body was stabilizing his strength in the sky, and the Lin Feng, who was hugging Little Moon on the ground, was just an avatar. Even so, he could feel that Daming's current state was a little different. Daming seems to be about to break through. After Lin Feng's soul ring broke through to the million-year level, the amount of soul power that leaked out was too much. Back then, it allowed the two soul beasts to break through to the 100,000-year level, and Little Moon, Daming, and Xiao all absorbed a little. And because he wasn't strong enough, the 1,000 manipulation ruler couldn't completely cover the soul power, so about 20 to 30% of it leaked out. Under such circumstances, it took 2 hours to completely absorb it. But this time, Lin Feng was stronger, and not a single bit of soul power leaked out, and the amount of soul power he absorbed was reduced by half. After Little Moon transformed, he didn't absorb anymore. This way, most of the soul power was actually absorbed by Daming. Now, Daming was about to break through, and Lin Feng was very curious about the 100,000-year level soul beasts breaking through. He remembered that in the original story, other than the deep-sea demon whale king, there didn't seem to be a second soul beast above the 200,000-year level. And Lin Feng had walked on the continent for so long, and he didn't seem to have seen a soul beast above the 200,000-year level. Now, that Daming was about to break through. Could it be that he was going to break through to the 200,000-year level? If so, he could be considered to be witnessing history. But he remembered that if a soul beast didn't choose to transform and break through, it was impossible to break through to the million-year level. And when a soul beast broke through to the 100,000-year level, there seemed to be heavenly lightning descending to punish it. As if to confirm Lin Feng's guess, dark clouds began to gather in the sky above Monty Forest, and there were even rumbling sounds of thunder and lightning. Are you going to break through to the 200,000-year level? Lin Feng asked loudly. At this moment, Daming had already returned to his original size. His 100-meter-long body floated in the air, and he kept rolling as if he was about to transform into a dragon. Yes, Daming replied to Lin Feng, but because he was undergoing the tribulation, he couldn't say anything more. He could only focus on the lightning tribulation that was about to descend. At this moment, Lin Feng's main body withdrew the 1,000-G ruler, and the sky was revealed. Now, although his strength hadn't completely stabilized, it was more than half stable, and there were no major problems. Boom! The moment the 1,000-G ruler was withdrawn, a bolt of lightning struck down from the sky. Because it was too sudden, Daming didn't have time to block it, and the lightning struck Daming's body directly. He roared in pain, but because the surrounding soul power was incomparably dense, he quickly absorbed it, and his injuries quickly recovered. Following that, another bolt of lightning struck down. Daming roared angrily, and a green light burst out from his body. Even the lightning was blocked by the green light. Boom! Another bolt, and this was the last one, because Lin Feng saw that the dark clouds in the sky had begun to disperse. Facing this attack, Daming still emitted green light, and in the end, he was unscathed, but the consumption of soul power was too great. But this was not a problem at all. The surrounding soul power was incomparably dense, and he quickly recovered. At this point, Daming had officially passed the lightning tribulation and became a 200,000-year level super soul beast. Not only did his strength reach a new level, but also because he had experienced and understood some things, and he had a path to walk in the future. And this success could be said to be due to Lin Feng's contribution. If it wasn't for the surrounding soul power, Daming reckoned that his soul power would be exhausted after 2 bolts of lightning. He could only endure the last bolt of lightning. If he could endure it, he would naturally win and become a powerful 200,000-year soul beast. If he couldn't endure it, he could only die. The laws of Douluo continent were so cruel, and soul beasts were restricted. Only by cultivating to become a human could one become a god. Chapter 469. Lin Feng was not the only one who had never seen such a soul beast breakthrough. Erming, Little Moon, and Tang Hao were all dumbfounded. This was the first time they had seen it. Even Tang Hao didn't realize that Daming had broken through to 200,000 years. He thought that it had undergone some kind of special evolution. After all, after Daming passed the lightning tribulation, its 2 horns seemed to have become more distinct. And after Daming passed the lightning tribulation, it understood the path it had to take in the future. Every 100,000 years, it had to undergo a tribulation. As long as it didn't die, its strength would increase, and most importantly, its lifespan would increase. Originally, if they didn't transform into human form, soul beasts could only live for 1,000 years. But with this breakthrough, their lifespan had directly increased to 10,000 years. As long as Daming continued to cultivate, after reaching 300,000 years, as long as it passed the lightning tribulation, its lifespan would increase again. After an hour, Daming stabilized its strength. Lin Feng also took advantage of this time to completely stabilize it. At the same time, the overflowing soul power was also completely absorbed. Ayan's cultivation had reached 80,000 years. At this time, she could already speak and even control the blue-silver grass to condense into a human form to walk. Tang Hao was overjoyed. The couple grabbed Lin Feng and thanked him, making Lin Feng feel a little embarrassed. "You don't have to thank me, really." Lin Feng waved his hand, then looked at Little Moon and said, "How about this? Little Moon can't speak yet. You two teach him how to speak." "That's no problem at all." Tang Hao hurriedly agreed. Beside him, Ayan also hugged Little Moon intimately. Perhaps it was because they were both plant-type soul beasts, but Little Moon and Ayan got along very well. "Daming, take good care of them." Lin Feng didn't ask Daming anything. Although a soul beast breaking through to 200,000 years was very surprising to him, it was essentially the same, so he didn't care much. After all, his current strength had far surpassed Daming's, so this was nothing to him. "I will." Daming didn't explain much and just nodded. Just like that, Lin Feng and Thanos didn't stay any longer and quickly left for Heavendo City. Lin Feng hadn't been gone for long, and everything was normal when he returned to Heavendo City. Now that 3 days had passed, the batch of titled law who had gone to Martial Soul City had more or less recovered, and they continued to carry out their respective duties in the Alliance. After Lin Feng returned, he didn't immediately bring them to harass the Martial Spirit Palace. He had just been there once. The Martial Spirit City was too strict. He had to wait a little longer. After all, his strength had been greatly improved. Lin Feng wanted to try and see if he could destroy the Martial Spirit Palace once and for all. As long as they were destroyed, the Soul Master Alliance would be able to develop in peace. At the same time, he could head to the Sea God's Island with peace of mind. With this thought in mind, Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry to head to Martial Soul City again. Instead, he continued to develop the Soul Master Alliance, and the monthly test system was quickly being perfected. The Tang sect had also started to make the Alliance Badge. The Alliance Badge was a proposal that they had proposed in a meeting not long ago. As long as a Soul Master joined the Soul Master Alliance, they would be able to receive a badge that represented their identity. Different people would receive different badges depending on their position. At the moment, it was just a badge. In the future, the laboratory would develop a special technology to make the badge more secure and unique. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. During these days, Lin Feng mainly focused on perfecting the test system. At the same time, he also went to supervise the construction of the branch to prevent any trouble. In the end, everything was normal. The location of the first branch had been decided long ago. It was to be in Iron Rock City, which was west of Heavendo City. This was also a big city with many powerful Soul Masters and Soul Master factions. However, they had all joined the Soul Master Alliance. Lin Feng went over these 5 days mainly to plan and prepare for construction. Douluo's world didn't have modern construction equipment, nor did it have efficient transportation routes. However, there were Soul Masters with super special martial souls. With this group of people and materials, they had already been transported over in advance. In just 5 days, the construction of the branch was already 1/3 complete. It was estimated that it would be completed in another 5 days. It wouldn't be long before the Soul Master Alliance's branch began to build up momentum. As for operations, this matter would have to wait. After the laboratory produced the Soul tool that specialized in recording contribution points, the branch could officially start operations. During this period, they could only open the branch to various places. And today, after resting, they hadn't gone to Martial Spirit City for a while. Thanos once again led his men to attack, heading straight for Martial Spirit City. They first found Bai Xiuyang to understand the recent situation in Martial Spirit City. After knowing that none of them had left, Thanos didn't probe too much and directly led his men to attack. At this moment, Martial Spirit City's defenses were tight, and it was impossible to sneak an attack with his men, unless he sneaked an attack alone, but that would be very dangerous, so charging directly was the best choice. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Just as Thanos rushed over with his men, the Soul Masters on the city wall shouted loudly. Those titled Daw also let out long howls, telling Bibi Dong and Qiandao Lu that Thanos was attacking. Split up. Pincer attacked from the left and right. Thanos shouted in a low voice, then rushed towards the gate alone. The titled Daw behind him quickly split into two and attacked for both sides. At the same time, in Martial Spirit City, Qiandao Lu and Bibi Dong had already brought all the experts and rushed towards the city gate. How dare you bully my martial spirit hall? Everyone, follow me and kill. Bibi Dong shouted, causing the spirit of all the martial spirit hall's Soul Masters to soar. Qiandao Lu rushed to the front alone. Without saying a word, the long sword in his hand flickered with a cold light, directly attacking Thanos. Behind him, Bibi Dong followed closely. His twin martial souls were on standby, ready to deal a fatal blow at any time. The two of them realized that Thanos dared to break away from the main group, and even split into 3 groups. This was simply courting death. Although Bibi Dong and Qiandao Lu did not talk, at this moment they tacitly chose to attack together. In this regard, Thanos did not show the slightest fear. Instead, he stopped moving forward and quietly stopped in the air, as if he was frightened by the two's joint attack. Dying, Qiandao Lu did not hesitate at all. The long sword in his hand shone with a golden light, and he slashed towards Thanos. However, what he did not realize was that the surrounding space was already filled with small clones of the Thousand Trickery Ruler. Because they were very small, one had to look carefully to see them with the naked eye. However, Qiandao Lu only had eyes for Thanos at this moment. He did not care so much and directly slashed with his sword. Bibi Dong, who was behind him, was more careful. The moment she entered this area, she realized that something was wrong. She immediately shouted at Qiandao Lu, "Come back. There's a trap." However, this reminder was still a little too late. Thanos softly spat out a word, "Explode." As his voice fell, the countless clones instantly exploded. In the next second, the space shattered, and it was actually divided into extremely small spatial cracks. Furthermore, these cracks could move strangely, and at this moment, they were cutting towards Qiandao Lu. This was the additional soul skill that Lin Feng had after his 8th soul ring broke through to the 1,000,000-year level. Originally, his soul skill was teleportation, and he could even change positions with his clones. But now Not only did his teleportation distance and switching distance with his clones increase, but he could also create spatial cracks. In theory, this spatial crack could only appear in front of the user. It was an all-round soul skill that could defend, attack, and even seal. However, now that it was combined with Lin Feng's 1,000 Trickery Ruler clones, it was able to produce such an effect. Although the spatial cracks were a lot smaller and the power was also a little weaker, the advantage was that there were a lot of them. At the moment of the explosion, Qiandao Lu's entire body was wrapped in spatial cracks, and his body was covered in wounds. Half of the 6 wings on his back were broken in an instant, and he had suffered quite a few injuries. At this moment, Thanos controlled the spatial cracks to continue charging towards Qiandao Lu. At the same time, the Umbra binding in his hand flew out, wanting to control him. Originally, Lin Feng could have destroyed Qiandao Lu with this attack. After all, the latter was stunned by this move and didn't even know how to defend, so he would definitely die. However, at this moment, Bibi Dong made a move. She should have used a soul skill from a soul bone and actually appeared beside Qiandao Lu in an instant. Following that, a spider web wrapped around the two of them, and they rushed straight towards Martial Spirit City. Thanos' Umbra binding hit the spider web, but it didn't affect it at all. The spatial cracks easily cut through the spider web, but the spider web was too thick. By the time the cracks could really hurt the two of them, Bibi Dong had already retreated to a safe place with Qiandao Lu. At this moment, Qiandao Lu reacted quickly, and his body released a dazzling golden light. In the next second, his injuries were completely healed, but he had used up a lot of his soul power. The Angel Martial Soul was indeed a top-notch martial soul. Not only was its attack power strong, its support ability was also extremely strong. Other than not being suitable for underwater combat, it was basically all-round. Seeing this scene, Thanos sighed, "Old man, you're really lucky." Because he had an additional trump card, he originally had a chance to kill Qiandao Lu. Even if Bibi Dong was behind him, he was confident that he could kill Qiandao Lu in advance. But what he didn't expect was that Bibi Dong actually had a teleportation-type soul skill, and the most important thing was that he could teleport in a place full of spatial cracks. This was something that Thanos Overlord didn't expect. Furthermore, he reckoned that this was most likely a skill that came with an extremely special soul bone. Otherwise, it would be impossible for her to teleport. For the time being, Qiandao Lu wasn't supposed to die. If he missed this opportunity, these two people would probably not be alone anymore. It would be almost impossible for him to kill them. Of course, since he couldn't kill anyone now, he had to earn a wave of experience points. Taking advantage of Qiandao Lu's lack of soul power, he went all out and directly fought 1 against 2. Bibi Dong's injuries had yet to fully recover. In addition, she had used up a lot of soul power to save people. The two of them and Thanos were actually evenly matched. Most importantly, the two of them had recently borrowed the power of God and couldn't borrow it again in a short period of time. They could only barely contend. On the other side, Dusty Heart, Tang Xiao, and the others split into 2 groups and directly fought with the consecrators and elders on the city wall. However, because of the large number of people in Martial Spirit City, they only dared to fight at the edge. Otherwise, if they got close, their lives would be in danger. Just like that, after fighting for a minute or 2, Dusty Heart and the others were unable to hold on. Thanos shouted, "Retreat!" At the same time, the long rod in his hand thickened and smashed towards the two of them. Following that, a sea of flames condensed in front of him, and he threw it towards the crowd behind the two of them. Just now, countless clones exploded and turned into spatial cracks. It looked like it was over in an instant, but in fact, it consumed a lot of soul power and energy. Especially when moving the large number of spatial cracks at the back. It was a huge burden on him. Now that the battle was over, he was a little tired and quickly retreated with his people. With Thanos' attack before retreating, Bibi Dong and the others couldn't chase after them. In the end, they could only return to the city and quickly recover their soul power. Now, they were very passive. Other than defending, there was nothing they could do. However, Bibi Dong didn't panic too much because she realized that every time she fought, she would have new insights. This could speed up her breakthrough. Even if Thanos' strength was a little surprising today, Bibi Dong firmly believed that she would definitely become a god first. Just as Martial Spirit City continued to defend, Thanos and the others had already returned to Heaven Do City. This battle wasn't very satisfying, but at least they had achieved their goal of harassing them. Everyone felt very good. Unlike the tension in Martial Spirit City, after returning to the Soul Master Alliance, everyone quickly went into work. This time, they didn't consume much energy, so they didn't need to recover. Only Lin Feng went asleep. The others continued to follow the plan. A week later, it would be the end of the month, and the monthly exam would be held. Ning Fengji had recently started the construction of the venue for the monthly exam. He was also in charge of the regulations. 3 days later, good news came from the laboratory. The soul tool that could record contribution points had been designed. However, due to the confidentiality of this thing, it had to go through strict testing. Only Grandmaster and Oscar handled it. No one else was allowed to touch it. In this way, time was tight. They couldn't start production immediately. They had to wait for a while. Just as Grandmaster, Oscar, and the others were doing the testing, the monthly exam had already entered the intensive preparation phase. In this month, many new forces had joined. Some of them were very strong, stronger than the current deacons and hallmasters. In their opinion, these positions should be held by them. Therefore, the competition for the first monthly exam should be very fierce. Of course, these were all under Ning Fengji's control. As for the battles between the titled Douluo and the others, they were naturally managed by Thanos. Lin Feng had been coveting these experienced babies for a long time. Now that he had the chance, he would definitely squeeze them dry. Just like that, under the warm atmosphere, the grand event that belonged to the Soul Master Alliance finally began. Chapter 470. The place used for the monthly exam was a huge plaza. There were 10 small arenas, 5 medium arenas, and 3 large arenas. These 3 arenas were suitable for 3 types of people to fight. The small arenas were filled with soul masters who were soul sages. They would fight for the position of deacon. The medium arenas were filled with soul masters, like Soul Douluo. They would fight for the position of hall master. As for the large arenas, they were filled with titled Douluo. However, they didn't have to fight for the position of elder. This position was automatically obtained when a soul master became a titled Douluo. They had to fight for the special elder positions, such as the Enforcement Elder, Chamber of Commerce Elder, and so on. As for the rules of the monthly exam, they were very simple. First, there would be the ranking tournament. No matter what position they held, as long as they were soul masters of the same realm, they would have to spar with each other. Everyone had to participate and fight with all soul masters of the same realm once. Then, they would be ranked according to the number of victories they had. If there were soul masters with the same number of victories, they would fight one-on-one, and the final ranking would be calculated. Under such circumstances, everyone's ranking would appear, and it would be clear at a glance. After that, those soul masters who didn't participate in the ranking tournament could choose to challenge these people. Everyone had 3 chances to challenge. As long as they succeeded, they could replace that person. Soul masters who were defeated also had 3 chances to challenge. If they failed all 3 times, they would lose their qualifications. Of course, every challenge had to be fair. There would be healing type and support type soul masters at the side to help these people recover their soul power and injuries. This challenge would last for a total of 3 days. This was enough time for the monthly exam to proceed smoothly. Right, this monthly exam was mainly targeted at combat-type soul masters. The support type and healing type soul masters were special in the Soul Master Alliance. They didn't have positions like Hall Master or Deacon. However, these soul masters were special. As long as they passed the exam, they could obtain a special support type certificate from the Soul Master Alliance. This support type certificate recorded their main abilities, various soul skills, and their uses. With this certificate, they could accept missions from a mission system. In other words, they could directly put their information in a specialized talent hall. If there were soul masters in the Alliance who wanted to find support-type soul masters, they could directly go to the talent hall and easily find the person they needed. The Alliance was like an intermediary platform, providing convenience for both sides. On the other hand, healing-type soul masters could obtain a healing certificate, which had similar effects as a support certificate. However, the business of healing-type soul masters was relatively stable because the Soul Master Alliance held a monthly exam every month. If soul masters were injured during the monthly exam, they would have to find these soul masters if they wanted to treat their injuries. This wasn't free. It required contribution points. As a result, these auxiliary-type and healing-type soul masters were able to earn contribution points quite quickly even if they didn't hold any positions in the Alliance. For Lin Feng, the small and medium-sized arenas weren't what he needed to focus on during the 3 days of the monthly exam. He only needed to fight in the large arenas. However, Xiao Wu, Ning Rongrong, and the others, as geniuses, all had a competitive spirit. Other than Xiao Wu, the others were all soul emperors, but they still had the guts to fight for the soul sage deacons. Xiao Wu was even more daring. She didn't care about the deacons. Her goal was to challenge the hall masters. She didn't really care about the positions. She mainly wanted to challenge herself. She wanted to see if she, as a soul sage, could challenge Douluo, who was above rank 85. Lin Feng didn't pay much attention to these things. They were just small fights. Experience points were the most important. The monthly exam lasted for 3 days. Since everyone was a member of the same alliance, although they had to give it their all in the duel, due to their reputation, most of them stopped at a certain point. There wouldn't be any scenes of life and death. Under such circumstances, everything was still quite harmonious. As for the large arenas, they were fighting between titled Douluo, so the commotion was greater. However, most of the titled Douluo were assigned according to their abilities when they were first assigned. Furthermore, the titled Douluo were all relatively wealthy. They didn't lack contribution points, so they weren't moved by the benefits of the positions. In fact, if it weren't for Thanos forcing them to carry out the ranking competition, they wouldn't have wanted to carry out the ranking competition. Of course, not everyone thought so. Some elders prefer to fight. For example, Dusty Heart liked to fight. Under such circumstances, Lin Feng used Thanos' identity to spar with everyone. In the end, he gained more than 400 million experience points. Including the 600 million from the sneak attack in Martial Spirit City, Lin Feng now had a little more than 1 billion experience points. However, Lin Feng knew that it was still too difficult to gain 10 billion experience points in a short period of time, unless he sparred with others every day and went to Martial Spirit City to fight. He would only have a chance to gain 10 billion experience points if he continued like this for half a month. Not to mention whether or not Lin Feng could withstand such high-intensity battles. The decrease in experience points was something Lin Feng didn't want to see. Just like the 13 captives, if he turned Bibi Dong, Tang Xiao, and the others into this state, Lin Feng would have to go to the Sea God's Island to continue gaining experience points. Furthermore, for someone like him, it would take far too long for him to recover, just like Dugabo and the Shadow Will Douluo. In the past, Lin Feng had gained a lot of experience points from the two of them. Now that 3 years had passed, he had only gained 1 or 2 million experience points after fighting them 2 or 3 times. The decrease in experience points was too fast. Therefore, the fast way to gain experience points was not desirable. Sustainable development was the way to go. After the monthly exam, the Alliance of Soul Masters went back to the fast development plan. 5 days later, Lin Feng led people to attack Martial Spirit City again. While deterring the other party, he earned more than 600 million experience points. After 3 battles, Lin Feng felt that Martial Spirit City should be completely deterred. They shouldn't dare to make a move for the time being. During this time, Xue Qinghe was very concerned about the Sea God's Island. He had been paying attention to the news there. Recently, he found out that the Sea God's Island was going to be officially open half a month later. After hearing this news, Lin Feng didn't plan to wait any longer. He wanted to bring Tang San and the others to the Sea God's Island for a tour. Otherwise, when the Sea God's Island was completely opened, things might change. Just like that, When everyone returned to Heaven Do City, Lin Feng gathered Shrek's 7 monsters and told them about the Sea God's Island. Didn't I tell you before that I'm going to bring you to a special place? The date has been decided. It's this afternoon. We'll set off immediately. Why did he leave in the afternoon instead of now? The reason was simple. Shuqinghe had some matters to attend to and was delayed for a while. He would only arrive in the afternoon. Fengge, where is it? You didn't tell us before. Now you can tell us, right? Xiao Wu asked. Everyone else chimed in. Yeah, Fengge. You've been so secretive before. Tell us now. Lin Feng had mentioned this mysterious place many times before. He had whetted everyone's curiosity. It's the Sea God's Island, Lin Feng said with a smile. Sea God's Island? Everyone was puzzled. They had never heard of this name. You're going to the Sea God's Island? Grandmaster was surprised. Also, how do you know about it? When Lin Feng gathered Shrek's 7 monsters, Grandmaster had also come. He hadn't said anything before, but after hearing the name Sea God's Island, he was very surprised. Grandmaster knows about the Sea God's Island? Oscar and the others were puzzled. Of course I do, Grandmaster said. That place is very dangerous. The Martial Spirit Hall once sent more than 2,000 Soul Masters there. They wanted to take over the Sea God's Island, but the Soul Masters there were stronger than expected. In the end, only 90 of them returned. 2 of their titled Soul Masters, Douluo, also died there. Because of this, the Martial Spirit Hall recorded that place as the Demonic Island. It was listed as a place even more dangerous than the depths of the Star Do Great Forest. After that, no Soul Masters from the Martial Spirit Hall went there. I know. The Soul Masters on the Sea God's Island have very strange martial souls. They call themselves the Children of the Sea. The soul beasts on the island are completely different from those on the continent. We don't even know how they fight. Is that place really that dangerous? Tang San's eyes were filled with doubt. Ning Rongrong also said, if that place is that dangerous, why haven't I heard of it? Ma Hongjun said proudly, the Martial Spirit Hall isn't that strong. Aren't they still suppressed by Mr. Destroy and his people? If the Soul Master Alliance goes there, they won't be a match at all. Because of the recent success of the Soul Master Alliance and its rapid development, all the members of the Soul Master Alliance were very confident. Ma Hongjun, especially when he became a deacon in the monthly exam, was so arrogant that he almost broke the sky. Don't be too proud, Grandmaster said. I've been to the Sea God's Island. The Soul Masters there are very strong. I even think that there's a peak rank 99 Douluo there. He's not weaker than Elder Destroy. Also, the Soul Masters there are all Sea Soul Masters. They have a great advantage in fighting in the sea. Even Qian Daolu of the Martial Spirit Hall won't have a good time if he goes there. A Sea Soul Master like Douluo can even kill a titled Soul Master like Douluo in the sea. That's how powerful they are. Also, the Soul Cultivators on the Sea God's Island aren't bad by nature. The Martial Soul Hall wanted to conquer the Sea God's Island, but they were forced to resist. That's why a battle broke out. If you go and interact with them, it's best if you have good intentions. By the way, that island is very special. Although it is full of all kinds of dangers, there are also many opportunities. If outsiders go there, as long as they pass the test, they will be able to gain great benefits. Lin Feng didn't say anything when Grandmaster said this. He had to say it anyway. If Grandmaster said it for him, it would save him a lot of effort. Great benefits? Can it help us become titled Douluo? Xiao Wu said expectantly. Hearing this, the others also looked at Grandmaster with anticipation. The gap between them and Lin Feng was too big. Now that there was a shortcut to shorten the gap, they were very interested. Grandmaster shook his head and said, I don't know. It shouldn't be. Although Grandmaster knew many things about the Sea God's Island, he didn't know the details about the opportunities. He only knew the general idea. At this moment, Lin Feng said, it's possible, but how likely it is depends on your own strength. All of you are Soul Emperors now. Xiao Wu and Xiao San are even Soul Sages. The Sea God's Island is the inheritance ground of the Sea God. You can go there and accept their God's test. Generally, as long as you pass all the tests, you will be able to gain a huge increase in strength. Even the age of your soul rings will change. Fengge, how do you know so much? Ma Hongjun was surprised by Lin Feng's knowledge. Xiao Wu mocked him mercilessly. Fatty, you're so stupid. Do you think Fengge is like you? You don't know anything. He has been with Mr. Destroy for so long. He must know more than you. Ma Hongjun was speechless. Fatty was scolded. If it was in the past, he might still be stubborn. But now, Xiao Wu was much stronger than him. He didn't dare to say anything. Otherwise, he would get beaten up, so he could only shut up. That's right. This is what Master Mie told me. In fact, Lin Feng didn't want to explain much, but since Xiao Wu said so, he went with the flow. Aren't you wondering why Mr. Destroy and BB Dong's soul rings are so old? His first and second soul rings have even become 10,000-year soul rings. The reason for this is the inheritance of the god. As long as you pass the god's test, you will have the opportunity to increase the age of your soul rings. That's why this situation happened. And the god's test will also increase the level of your soul power. It's directly increased by divine power without the slightest bit of exaggeration. It's completely compatible with your body. It's the best choice to quickly increase your strength. The reason why Mr. Destroy suddenly became so strong is because he passed the god's test. I see. Everyone nodded. Even a master had a look of realization. There are too few people who knew about the inheritance of the god. Even though they had vaguely heard of this thing before, they were not clear about the specific situation. So at this time, Lin Feng's words opened the door to a new world for everyone. Fengge, if I complete all the god's tests, will I become a god directly? Xiao Wu asked. Soul beasts transformed into human form, and their ultimate pursuit was to become a god. Therefore, Xiao Wu was obsessed with the word god. The others were also very curious because they felt that the strength of Thanos, BB Dong, and Xian Dao Lu was too far away from the other titled Douluo. They even guessed that the three of them had become gods, so they were very curious about the news of gods. Chapter 471. Lin Feng didn't avoid everyone's questions. Instead, he smiled and said, the god's test is also divided into levels, and the number of tests is also divided. Generally, the number of tests is from 1 to 9, and it's related to one's aptitude. The lower the aptitude, the easier the test, and the fewer the number of tests, and the lesser the rewards. On the other hand, the better the aptitude, the more difficult the test, and the more the test, the more rewards. If your aptitude is good to a certain extent, you might gain the favor of the gods, and then send down the gods' 9 tests. This way, as long as you pass all of them, you can directly inherit the god's position. Can one directly become a god by inheriting the god's position? Dai Mubai hurriedly asked. The others were also very concerned about this. After all, that was the god's position, the ultimate pursuit of all soul masters. That's right. Lin Feng smiled and said, as long as you inherit the god's position, it means that you have gained the recognition of the gods. With the support of the test rewards, you will soon be able to break through level 100 and ascend to the God realm. What Lin Feng said was something that no one had heard before. They felt that it was very novel and fell into deep thought after hearing it. After a while, Xiao Wu said excitedly, Xiao Wu, am such a genius. I will definitely have the top 9 tests. By the way, Fengge, the inheritance on the Sea God's Island should be the Sea God's inheritance, right? That's right. It's the Sea God's inheritance. Lin Feng nodded. Xiao Wu immediately smiled and said, that's right. Xiao Wu, will receive the Sea God's 9 tests and directly become the Sea God. As she spoke, Xiao Wu looked up at the sky with a proud expression. Looking at everyone's speechless expressions, Xiao Wu asked, what's wrong? Are all of you looking down on me, Xiao Wu? I'm level 73 now, younger than third brother. Other than Fengge, who can compare to me? As soon as she finished speaking, Xiao Wu instantly realized something. She looked at Lin Feng and asked, Fengge, how many sea gods are there? Hearing this question, Lin Feng instantly laughed. Do you think that the deity position is a vegetable in a vegetable stall? You can buy as many as you want. Of course, there's only one. I see, Xiao Wu said dejectedly. Then Fengge will definitely get the sea god deity position. I can't win against him. Hearing this, Lin Feng's expression became much more serious. He said, "Actually, I brought you to the Sea God's Island to participate in the God's test, mainly because I want you to take advantage of these gods. In the end, it's best if you don't inherit their godhood." Take advantage? Don't want to inherit the godhood? Lin Feng's words stunned everyone. It was understandable for them to make a small profit. The rewards they received from the divine examination were already considered a small profit. However, the fact that he didn't want to inherit the godhood made people feel very puzzled. Becoming a god was the ultimate goal of all soul masters. In the soul master world, hundreds of years had passed, and no one had broken through level 100 to become a god. Now that they had a chance to become a god, or in other words, Lin Feng had a chance to become a god himself. Why would he say such a thing? Soon, Lin Feng explained, the rewards given by the divine examination are not bad. There are no side effects, and it's completely upgraded by divine power. You'll only benefit after absorbing it. After being cleansed by Douluo's world barrier, the divine power had no attributes, so there is no need to worry about any side effects after absorbing it. But the godhood is different. You've inherited a god's godhood through the divine examination. When you ascend to the divine realm in the future, you'll naturally have a certain connection with that god, and you'll even be controlled by him. Also, the strength of the godhood obtained from the divine examination is directly related to the strength of that god in the divine realm. You must inherit a powerful godhood so that you'll be stronger when you ascend to the divine realm. And I'm not the one who advocates this. You're all geniuses, so I hope you can condense your own godhood. You can condense your own godhood. Everyone was shocked. They hadn't thought of this at all. Because no one had broken through level 100 to become a god for hundreds of years, the Soul Master world had very little information about the godhood, the divine realm, and the divine examination. Almost 99% of the people didn't know anything about it. Under such circumstances, when they heard Lin Feng say that one could obtain a godhood through the divine examination, they thought that this was the only way to become a god. But now that Lin Feng said that soul masters could condense their own godhood, what should they do? They were all shocked. That's right, Lin Feng nodded. Otherwise, how do you think the sea god on Sea God Island came from? He also passed the sea god's 9 divine examinations? Of course not. The sea god on Sea God Island unified the entire sea and broke through level 100 at the same time. Then, he used the power of the sea to condense his godhood and finally ascended to become a god. I see. Everyone was shocked. They didn't expect the sea god to become a god in this way. Lin Feng continued, when one becomes a god, they're usually very powerful. Even in the divine realm, they're not weak. The strength of the godhood is closely related to one's strength. As long as one becomes stronger, the godhood will become stronger. There's no limit, and if one inherits someone else's godhood, they'll be controlled by that person. Of course, I have to choose to become a god myself. I won't inherit any godhood. Xiao Wu immediately said. Ma Hongjun also smiled. That's right, that's right. Inheriting someone else's godhood is still someone else's. What's yours is the best. Zhu Zhuqing asked. Feng Gu, becoming a god yourself should be more difficult than inheriting a godhood, right? She was very clear on one principle. Strong strength always required more effort. There were so many benefits to becoming a god, but it was definitely more difficult. That's right, Lin Feng said. Not only is it harder to break through to become a god yourself, it also requires a huge amount of energy. When the sea god became a god, he unified the entire ocean and then borrowed the power of the ocean to condense a godhood. From this, you can see how difficult it is. If you want to become a god yourself, you have to overcome this difficulty. Is it that difficult to unify the entire ocean to become a sea god? Ma Hongjun sucked in a breath of cold air. Everyone had no idea how big the ocean was, but to them, it was incomparably huge. And the sea god had unified the entire ocean and then borrowed such a huge amount of power to become a god. The difficulty of this was too great. The sea god is an extremely powerful god. You can lower your position a little. This way, you will need less energy. Although your strength will be weaker, but after you ascend to the divine realm and cultivate, your speed of improvement will be much faster than on the Douluo continent. To be honest, in theory, there was no one else on the Douluo continent who knew what Lin Feng was talking about. However, when everyone heard it, they did not find it strange at all, because in their opinion, Lin Feng should have learned it from the mysterious Marvel family. And the Marvel family was synonymous with mystery, so they should know everything. That still feels so much better, because Lin Feng used the sea god as an example. It gave people the feeling that it was extremely difficult to become a god themselves. In fact, according to Lin Feng's long research, it was not difficult to become a god himself. First, you had to use the rewards of the divine examination to quickly improve your strength, and then you had to start accumulating energy. That's right, the energy mentioned here was not real soul power. Otherwise, the power of the entire ocean would be so huge that even if the sea god had broken through level 100, he would not be able to withstand it all. Therefore, this energy, in Lin Feng's opinion, should be a kind of fame. A long time ago, Lin Feng had guessed that the sea god had unified the ocean and brought peace to the sea, allowing the sea soul masters to settle down. Furthermore, he had accumulated many believers. Now, almost all the soul masters in the coastal cities believed in the sea god. Based on this information, Lin Feng speculated that one of the conditions for becoming a god should be reputation, or rather, the hearts of the people. As long as he borrowed the power of the people and his own strength met the requirements, he would be able to condense his own divine position and become a god. The power of the sea that the sea god borrowed was not real power, but a kind of faith and fame. He brought peace to the sea, and this kind of reputation made all the soul masters and soul beasts in the sea believe in him. Only then can he become a god. Therefore, becoming a god is not difficult. It mainly depends on the hearts of the people. Lin Feng said, and now the Soul Master Alliance is developing rapidly. This is a good opportunity. As long as the world of soul masters is unified, Xiao San's reputation will be raised. As long as you have enough strength, you could become a god. Me? Become a god? Tang San was stunned. He did not expect Feng Ge to talk about him. Really? He had a doubtful look on his face. The others were also doubtful. How could Tang San suddenly become a god? This was too exciting. It's just a guess at the moment, but the probability is very high. We'll talk about it in the future. Lin Feng looked at Oscar and said, not only Xiao San, Xiao Ao can do it too. When the Soul Master Alliance's reputation spreads across the continent in the future, as long as the soul tool technology that you and Master develop is sensational enough, everyone in the continent will remember you. And with this, you might be able to become a god too. Hearing this, Oscar was so happy that he was dumbfounded. He muttered, I could become a god. I could become a god. Xiao Wu said anxiously, Feng Ge, what about me? I want to become a god too. In Xiao Wu's eyes, it was as if Lin Feng could become a god if he said so. She almost deified Lin Feng. You want to become a god? Lin Feng said angrily, think of a way yourself. I'm only saying this to provide you with an idea and method. I'm bringing you to Sea God's Island this time to take advantage of the Sea God. After passing the test there, we can quickly increase our strength. And after the test is over, our strength will increase by a lot. Then we can come back. What if one of us passes the Sea God's 9 tests, and the Sea God forces us to inherit the deity position? Ning Rongrong asked. To put it nicely, the question she asked was called prevention before it happened. To put it bluntly, it was called worrying about nothing. They had not even reached Sea God's Island, but they were already discussing the matter of inheriting the Sea God's deity position. It was like holding hands with the opposite sex and thinking about buying a house, getting married, and having children. They were biting off more than they could chew. However, Lin Feng still said, we'll see when the time comes. It's useless to talk about this now. Have a good rest. We'll set off in the afternoon. Okay. Everyone suppressed the excitement in their hearts and quickly dispersed to rest. Lin Feng's words had opened the door to a new world for everyone. The knowledge about God was too shocking for them. They needed to calm down and compose themselves. Soon, 2 hours passed, and it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. After 2 hours of rest, everyone had calmed down. At the same time, they had recovered more than half of their strength. At this time, Xueqinghe had also arrived at Shrek Academy. Lin Feng had received the news in advance, so he gathered everyone and waited on the main road of the Soul Master Alliance. After the Soul Master Alliance had been reorganized, not only had their decorations become more luxurious, but the main road was also very wide. It was a full 30 meters wide, wider than all the roads in Heavendo City. There were street lamps, trees, open spaces, and so on both sides of the main road. Many people were conversing here, and it was very lively. Xueqinghe came in casual clothes, while Lin Feng and the others were also in disguise. Otherwise, with their identities, they would be too conspicuous in the Soul Master Alliance. Just like that, the two sides met not long after. After greeting each other, Lin Feng smiled and said, "Okay, everyone's here. Let's go." "Wait, I have something for Alliance Leader Tang," Xueqinghe suddenly said. "What?" Tang San was stunned. What did he have to give him? "It's a special soul tool." Xueqinghe flipped his hand as he spoke. It was a very strange item. It looked crystal clear and light blue. It was triangular in shape and the size of a palm. It seemed to be carved out of a sapphire, and it flickered with a dense radiance. This item is called the Vast Sea Cosmic Shroud. When my father visited the Soul Master Alliance, he felt that the alliance would bring prosperity to the Heaven-Do Empire, so he conferred Alliance Leader Tang the title of Vast Blue King. This Vast Sea Cosmic Shroud is the symbol of Vast Blue King. When the Snowy Night Emperor visited the Soul Master Alliance, Lin Feng didn't see him very happy. Xueqinghe's words were obviously not true. However, Lin Feng soon remembered that Ning Fengji seemed to have been visiting the palace recently. He probably said something, so the Snowy Night Emperor conferred Tang San the title of Vast Blue King. Furthermore, Lin Feng was very emotional now. Tang San was indeed the main character. His luck was heaven-defying. If it was his treasure, it couldn't escape. It was just like the 8-bone spider spear. He had clearly absorbed the third soul ring, but he didn't expect it to mutate. This Vast Sea Cosmic Shroud was the same. In the original book, it was also Tang San's treasure. Now, on the last day before he left, it was brought over by Xueqinghe. "Then I'll thank your majesty." Tang San accepted it and smiled. If it was in the past, Tang San might refuse or not know if he should accept it or not. But now, after a month of training, he gradually had the temperament of an alliance leader. Not only was he steady in his actions, but he also became very calm in the face of major matters. Now, in the face of a reward, he was neither servile nor overbearing and accepted it calmly. Chapter 472. The Vast Blue King was a huge reward. Furthermore, the Vast Sea Cosmic Shroud was the Heaven-Do Empire's national treasure. Now that it was given to Tang San, Lin Feng didn't quite understand it. In the original novel, Tang San had saved the Heaven-Do Empire. It was because of this that he received this reward. Now that Tang San had received the Vast Sea Cosmic Shroud, Lin Feng could only guess that it was because of the protagonist's luck. Ning Fengji's persuasion was probably to get the Snowy Night Emperor to place a huge bet on Tang San. The direct bestowal and the previous visit were probably to tie Tang San firmly to the Heaven-Do Empire's war chariot. However, what Shui didn't know was that under Lin Feng's guidance, Tang San wouldn't be moved to tears by the reward of being bestowed a kingship. It was just a kingship. Tang San didn't care about it now. Of course, not caring about the Vast Blue King was one thing. However, Tang San understood that Xueqinghe had sent this treasure over on behalf of the Snowy Night Emperor. They wanted to rope in the Soul Master Alliance. However, Tang San knew Lin Feng's real plan. The Soul Master Alliance wanted to unify the continent in the end. Regardless of whether it was the Heaven-Do Empire or the Heaven-Do Empire, they would eventually become the Soul Master Alliance's enemies. Therefore, the Snowy Night Emperor's efforts were destined to be in vain. "Your Highness, you said that this Vast Sea Cosmic Shroud is a special soul tool. May I know what it's used for?" Tang San asked. I'm not sure what it's used for, but it's very magical. Alliance leader Tang, you'll know when you inject your soul power into it, Shuqing said. The vast sea cosmic shroud was very mysterious. Shuqing wasn't very clear about it. He was also very surprised that the snowy night emperor would give it to Tang San. Then let's not try it out first. Let's set off first. Tang San didn't waste any more time. He immediately stored the vast sea cosmic shroud into his soul tool. Seeing this, Lin Feng didn't say anything. He smiled and said, "All right, let's set off." The vast sea cosmic shroud was a decent treasure. It seemed to be related to the sea god. However, Lin Feng's current plan was to allow all of Shrek's 7 monsters to ascend to godhood. This way, they would be even more powerful after ascending to the divine realm. As such, Lin Feng didn't want Tang San to inherit the sea god throne, so he would rather avoid using the vast sea cosmic shroud as much as possible. With that in mind, the group left Heavendoe City and headed west. Because they were traveling in secret, no one came to see them off. After traveling a short distance away from Heavendoe City, they stopped. Lin Feng said, "All right, this distance is about right, and there's no one around. Everyone put on the wings of the sky." That's right, the 9 of them were using the wings of the sky to travel. Furthermore, Oscar had given everyone flying mushroom intestines. If the wings of the sky ran out of soul force, they had to quickly eat it. At the same time, they took out soul stones to recharge the wings of the sky. This way, everyone would be able to fly in the sky. Furthermore, the wings of the sky were extremely fast. They estimated that they would arrive at the coastal area around 9 p.m. After seeing everyone put on the wings of the sky, Lin Feng chuckled and was the first to fly up. "Let's go. Woohoo. Let's go." Ma Hongjun laughed and flew up as well. Oscar smiled. The second-generation wings of the sky that Grandmaster and I have developed is not only fast, but also very stable. You'll experience the feeling of flying at high speed. Fly, fly. Ning Rongrong also flew up. In an instant, everyone took off and followed Lin Feng's path toward the west. They were going to participate in an extremely difficult trial, and even their lives might be in danger. However, for some reason, with Lin Feng by their side, they didn't feel the slightest bit nervous. Instead, they felt very relaxed, as if they were going on an outing. Just like that, half a day passed quickly, and everyone arrived in the vicinity of Vassi City. Vassi City is not far ahead. Everyone put away the wings of the sky. Let's walk over. With that, Lin Feng led everyone to land. Although it was night, everyone was not weak soul masters. With the help of the moonlight, they could easily see vast sea city in the distance. "What's this smell? It feels weird." Zhu Zhuqing suddenly frowned. Xiao Wu also said, yes, it stinks. There's a salty, fishy smell. Although Ning Rongrong didn't say anything, she also frowned. Obviously, she didn't like this smell. Previously, everyone was flying in the sky, and the wind speed was a little fast, so they basically couldn't smell this smell. Now that they landed on the ground, they immediately felt it. "This is the smell of the sea." Lin Feng smiled. "There's still some distance from the sea. If we go to the beach, there will be many people drying seafood, and the smell will be even more pungent. So this is the smell of the sea." Apart from Lin Feng, everyone was surprised. It was their first time coming to the sea, and everyone was surprised. "All right, don't be surprised. Let's go to Vast Sea City first, and think of a way to get a map to the Sea God's Island." Lin Feng smiled. Although the Sea God's Island wasn't small, it was nothing compared to the vast and boundless sea. Without knowing the exact location of the Sea God's Island, Lin Feng estimated that it would take him a very long time to find it if he wanted to find it himself. Thus, they had to know the route to the Sea God's Island in advance. Only then would they be able to reach it quickly. Just like that, Lin Feng led everyone to Vast Sea City. The closer they got to the city, the stronger the smell of the sea became. However, this was only temporary. Once you smelled this smell for a long time, you would get used to it. Vast Sea City was like Heavendoe City. It was a city that didn't sleep. At night, it was very lively. After a routine inspection, the group quickly entered Vast Sea City. Everyone found that the people in vast sea city were generally shorter, and their skin seemed to be darker because they were often exposed to the sun. In this way, Ning Rongrong, Xiao Wu, and Zhu Zhuqing, these beauties were more eye-catching. Almost 100% of the people on the road turned their heads. However, their temperaments were very noble at first glance. They were most likely soul masters, so no one dared to come over and flirt with them. Fengge, where are we going now? Tang Xin asked immediately. Although the others were not as eye-catching as the three beauties, they were still surrounded by a lot of people, which made them feel a little uncomfortable. Great Soul Arena, Lin Feng said as he looked ahead. Great Soul Arena? Are we going to have a soul battle? Ma Hongjun was more impatient and his hands were itchy. He said eagerly when Lin Feng spoke halfway. Soul battle your head. Listen to Fengge. Xiao Wu punched Ma Hongjun's head. Xiao Wu you. Ma Hongjun covered his head with his left hand and pointed at Xiao Wu with his right hand and said, You must have done it on purpose. You hit me so hard. When they flew over, everyone had a meal on the ground, which was a barbecue. At that time, Tang Xin roasted 3 pieces of meat, 2 of which were for Xiao Wu, but Ma Hongjun was greedy and ate one of them. At that time, Xiao Wu beat him up, and now she punched him again. Ma Hongjun felt that Xiao Wu was still holding a grudge. I did on purpose. Who told you to steal my food? You deserve a beating, fatty. Xiao Wu directly admitted it, not trying to hide it at all. Okay, Xiao Wu, when I am stronger than you in the future, I will definitely. Ma Hongjun clenched his fists. At this time, he directly took out the momentum of 30 years east of the river and 30 years west of the river. He wanted to say something ruthless and get back his face in the future. At this time, Tang Xin followed and said, You deserve it. Lin Feng also said, You deserve it. In an instant, Ma Hongjun's momentum was broken. He covered his head and said with an aggrieved face, Then I deserve it. Seeing this, everyone laughed at once. Fatty, this clown was really too likable. Even Xue Qinghe was affected by the atmosphere and laughed along. But at this time, everyone was on the street, and when they laughed, it attracted many people to look at them strangely. Seeing this, Lin Feng quickly said, Don't laugh. Let's go to the Great Soul Arena immediately and find a hotel nearby to stay. As for why we're going there, we will talk about it later. Hearing this, the group did not delay and quickly went to the Great Soul Arena, found a hotel nearby, and then checked in. In the room, Lin Feng said, Why did we come here? The reason is very simple. In the city with the Great Soul Arena, the place with the largest flow of soul masters is definitely the Great Soul Arena. And in the nearby hotels, bars, and other places, people who have been around for a long time are all well informed. So when we come here, it will be very easy for us to inquire about information. Lin Feng had also been in Douluo's continent for more than 2 years. He was super experienced in how to inquire about information and where to inquire about information faster. And this knowledge was not known to most people. Now that Tang Xin and the others heard it, they only felt that Lin Feng knew a lot. Without any nonsense, Lin Feng said directly, When we came here just now, I specifically observed that there are a total of 5 bars and 13 hotels nearby. Later, Fatty, Xiao, San, Mubai, the 3 of you will go to these places to inquire about the Sea God's Island. The others will go to the hotel to get some supplies and prepare for a month's consumption. It was now 9 o'clock in the evening, and the nightlife had just begun. The bars were also very popular, and the shouting in the Great Soul Arena was extremely loud. And in this case, it was a good time to inquire about information. Fengge, I also want to inquire about information, Xiao Wu said. Seeing this, Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing also said, We also want to go. Oscar actually wanted to open his mouth, but Lin Feng said at this time, What are you going for? Have a good rest today, and we will officially set off tomorrow. Oh, several people nodded. Xiao Wu was depressed on the surface at this time, and she was also depressed in her heart, thinking that she couldn't go out to play. As for Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing, although they were depressed on the surface, they were secretly happy, thinking that Lin Feng was concerned about them. Lin Feng indeed had this thought. After all, it was late at night, and there were bars and hotels. How could he be at ease if the girls went out? Okay, everyone else, let's go. I will also go out and look. After that, Lin Feng took Tang San, Ma Hongjun, and the others out. After half a day of flying, in fact, except for Lin Feng, everyone was a little tired. Especially Oscar. He made a lot of mushroom sausages today. He didn't feel it when he was excited just now, but now that he was resting, he was a little sleepy. The others were a little better, but they were also a little tired. 3 hours later, in the middle of the night, everyone gathered in the hotel again. Tang San, Ma Hongjun, and Dai Mubai went to many places in the past 3 hours and asked for a lot of information about the Sea Gods Island. They even heard a few people say that they knew the location of the Sea Gods Island. However, in the end, when they followed the clues, they found that it was all fake. No one knew the coordinates of the Sea Gods Island at all. They also found that many people were looking for the location of the Sea Gods Island recently. However, it seemed that because the Sea Gods Island was about to be opened, someone blocked the news in advance, and they couldn't find out at all. Lin Feng, of course, found the map of the Sea Gods Island. Although some unpleasant things happened in the middle, the result was good in the end. Now that everyone was gathered again, Lin Feng directly put the map on the table. When everyone saw it, Xiao Wu was the first to ask, "Feng Ge, why are there 3 maps of the Sea Gods Island?" Just as Xiao Wu said, there were 3 maps on the table, and all of them were of the Sea Gods Island. The most important thing was that there were some differences between them. Seeing this, everyone was a little confused. Lin Feng smiled. These 3 maps are the Sea Gods Island. The only reason why they're different is that they were drawn by 3 different people. Each of them has a different standard for the map, so the location of the Sea Gods Island is also different. That's why I took all 3 maps. It will be more convenient when we find the Sea Gods Island. Douluo continent's mapping technology was relatively backward, and there was no standard for it. The location of the Sea Gods Island on these maps might not be accurate. Lin Feng guessed that it should be an approximate location, and they would have to find on their own. At this time, Lin Feng took the 3 maps and crossed them to increase the margin of error. All right, Lin Feng also asked about the deep-sea demon whale king. He didn't want to avoid it, but he wanted to find its location. Lin Feng wanted to kill it. This was a super soul beast that was only a step away from becoming a million-year soul beast. It was extremely strong, and it was as strong as the rank 99 titled Douluo. Furthermore, because of its enormous body, even if the 1,000 Daos flow were here, it would be very difficult to kill it. The reason why Lin Feng wanted to kill it was very simple. Its soul ring was old enough, and it would give him a good soul bone. Lin Feng was interested in these 2 points, so he wanted to make it the first soul ring on his 1,000 trickery ruler. Of course, Lin Feng wouldn't say this out loud. Now that he had the map to the Sea Gods Island, everything was ready except for one thing. The group planned their plans for tomorrow, and after making the final preparations, they quickly dispersed and returned to their rooms to rest. Chapter 473. The next day, everyone woke up early in the morning. After eating a special breakfast, the group headed straight for the harbor. Although the unique scenery of vast sea city dazzled everyone, they knew that this was secondary. The most important thing was to get to Sea Gods Island. Hence, everyone was focused and quickly arrived at the harbor. Vast Sea City was the only harbor city in the Heaven Do Empire that was close to the sea. Although the other coastal cities were close to the sea, they didn't have a harbor. Hence, Vast Sea City's harbor was extremely large. The harbor was several hundred meters long and extended into the sea. At a glance, one could see more than 20 of them. There were at least 300 ships docked at the harbor. Although it was morning, the harbor was already bustling with activity. Countless workers were busy. Some were unloading goods from the ships, while others were transporting goods onto the ships. Not only was this the starting point of the Heaven Do Empire's maritime trade, it was also the end point. Almost half of Vast Sea City's income came from this harbor. The sea was extremely dangerous. One could even encounter some strong soul beasts. If one wasn't careful, they could lose their lives. But at the same time, the sea was filled with endless wealth. Some small islands even had gold mines. The storytellers in the bar often told stories about treasures. This made countless people yearn for it. Even though people died in the sea every year, everyone was still passionate about it. After all, the salt content of the land near the sea was relatively high. It was impossible to farm on a large scale. Hence, living by the sea became the livelihood of the people in Vasi City. There were many ships at the harbor. There were both big and small ones. If one wanted to find a suitable ship, it would take a long time. Lin Feng wasn't stupid enough to find one himself. He directly went to the harbor and shouted, "I want to buy or rent a large ship. I'll give 100 gold soul coins to whoever can bring me to the owner." The moment he finished speaking, the surrounding workers were stunned. Then they rushed towards Lin Feng and the others excitedly. I know. You want to sell the Black Hawk. It's a 30-meter-long ship. It'll definitely meet your requirements. The Black Hawk is too small, while the Machi is bigger. It's 40 meters long. Although it's not for sale, it can be rented. Furthermore, the rent is very cheap. It only costs 2,000 gold soul coins a day. I know. The Kaluan can be rented too. It's 54 meters long, and it only costs 3,000 gold soul coins a day. I can take you there right now. Within a few seconds, more than a dozen people were shouting and telling Lin Feng what they knew. After all, that was 100 gold soul coins. They might not be able to earn that much, even if they worked for a year. Now, they could get it just by pulling strings. This money was too easy to earn. Therefore, many people were shouting at the top of their lungs. Regarding this, Tang San, Xiao Wu, and the others' eyes were filled with admiration. They were just thinking about how they were going to find a suitable ship with so many ships. He didn't expect that Feng Gu would solve the problem with just one sentence. However, these people were too crazy. At this moment, they were all rushing towards them. They were about to collide with them. Ning Rongrong, Xiao Wu, Zhu Zhuqing, and the others all frowned. After all, these workers were relatively dirty. If they collided with them, it would be very uncomfortable. Everyone quiet. At this moment, Lin Feng shouted again. At the same time, he waved his hands, and a wave of soul power spread out in all directions with him as the center. An invisible resistance wall blocked in front of everyone, keeping them 5 meters away and unable to move an inch. Tang San and the others could see that this wasn't a soul skill at all. It was Feng Ji's precise control of his soul power. Everyone was blocked by this wave of soul power. Feng Ji's control is really amazing. I don't know how long it will take for me to reach this level, Ma Hongjun said enviously. Yeah, I want to reach this level too. Xiao Wu's eyes were also shining. Everyone was very envious of this level of control. Ignoring their envy, Lin Feng stretched out his right hand and pointed at 3 people. He said, you, and you. The boats that the 3 of you mentioned just now all fit my requirements. Now, bring us over. Whoever I think has a better boat will get 100 gold soul coins. The rest of you can leave. Although there were dozens of people talking at the same time, in just a few seconds, Lin Feng was able to distinguish the content of everyone's words and choose the most suitable ones. Hearing this, the 3 people who were pointed at were instantly ecstatic. They jumped up happily. As for the others, some left dejectedly, but some didn't give up. They continued to shout and wanted Lin Feng to accept their suggestions. However, Lin Feng didn't care about this at all. With a slight movement of his soul power, the 3 people were pulled in. After that, he said, "Bring us over to the 3 boats that you mentioned just now." Yes, sir. The boat that I know is closer. Let's go to my boat first. One of the more quick-witted people immediately said. Okay. Lin Feng nodded and didn't say anything else. The other 2 people were a little annoyed. Why didn't they speak first? After all, the chances of earning gold coins were much higher if they were the first to look. However, they didn't dare to say anything because they were intimidated by Lin Feng's identity as a soul master. They could only follow him. Just like this, after half an hour, Lin Feng and the others finished looking at the 3 boats. In the end, they chose the second boat. This boat was the biggest and the steadiest. Most importantly, it was also the fastest. Because of this, Lin Feng chose this boat. Lin Feng gave 100 gold soul coins to the guide. After that, he started to talk with the captain. The captain smiled and said, "We're not selling this boat. It only costs 5,000 gold soul coins a day." Food is included every day. Other than that, there's also... In response, Lin Feng didn't wait for the captain to finish speaking. He smiled indifferently and flipped his hand. A card was thrown to the captain. There are 100,000 gold coins in here. We'll rent for 20 days. Can we set off now? In the past month, the Soul Master Alliance had received too many resources. They had received too many gold soul coins. 100,000 gold coins was nothing to Lin Feng. As for the captain and the others, they were completely shocked by the rich and overbearing appearance of Zhang Heng. Yes. The captain took the card and quickly checked it. After confirming that there were indeed 100,000 gold coins, a smile immediately appeared on his face. Let's set off immediately. With that, the captain immediately went to call the crew. Just like this, Lin Feng brought the group onto the boat. Not long after, the crew was in position. After the captain asked Lin Feng for a map, they set off. The weather today was very good. It was a sunny day, and the sea was calm. Everyone couldn't help but gather on the deck. They drank their drinks and enjoyed the beautiful scenery while chatting freely. To be honest, the scenery of the sea was very good. The sea stretched as far as the eye could see. The sky and water merged into one in the distance. As the sea breeze blew, it was indescribably pleasant. However, this pleasant feeling didn't last for long. This was because Oscar and Ning Rongrong both felt seasick. They were very uncomfortable. As for the others, because of their strength, their performance was slightly better. Even if they were seasick, they could still suppress it. Seeing this, Lin Feng waved his hand. A ball of green light shone in the middle of everyone. In the next second, everyone's dizziness disappeared and they returned to normal. Fengge, I love you to death. Your martial soul is really too strong. It can even cure seasickness. After Oscar recovered, he immediately ran towards Lin Feng and wanted to give him a loving hug. In response, Lin Feng waved his hand and a wave of soul power hit Oscar's legs, causing him to fall flat on his face. Seeing this, everyone laughed out loud. However, not long after, the captain also came to the deck and directly looked for Lin Feng. There's a problem with the sea map you gave me. If we follow this map, we're simply courting death. The captain's tone carried a trace of anxiety. In Vast Sea City, the captains who dared to sail far away all had a rough idea of the sea. Where was dangerous, where was safe, where were the most soul beasts. These were all things that the captains had experienced after many voyages. In the sea map that Lin Feng gave him, the places along the route were extremely dangerous. There were even 10,000-year soul beasts. If his ship encountered a small number of soul beasts, it would be fine. Even if there were 10,000-year soul beasts, he was confident that he could escape. However, if they encountered a group of 10,000-year soul beasts, only death would await them. In the face of the captain's anxiety, Lin Feng said indifferently, "This is the shortest route. I saw the speed of your ship. If we don't take detours, we can reach it in 2 days. That's why I chose you. As for the danger, you don't have to worry about it. We'll settle it ourselves. Settle it." The captain's voice rose a notch. "According to my experience, there's a high chance that we'll encounter a 10,000-year soul beast tide along this route. That's fatal. I see that you're all soul masters from inland. Let me tell you, if we encounter a 10,000-year soul beast tide, we'll definitely die. Even Soul Douluo won't be able to escape." A 10,000-year soul beast tide didn't mean that these soul beasts only had 10,000 years of strength. It meant that they were at least 10,000 years of strength. If they were unlucky, they might even encounter soul beasts of 50,000 years and above. In such a situation, their ship will be torn to pieces in an instant. Even Soul Douluo wouldn't be able to escape death. Unless you had the strength of a titled Soul Master Douluo, only then would you have a chance to escape. Looking at the captain's resolute expression, Lin Feng knew that he wouldn't take this route. As he thought about it, Lin Feng said, "Captain, you can choose to take a detour, but I want to reach the destination in 3 days. Can you do that?" 3 days? How is that possible? The captain said, "The detour will take at least 3 more days. At the very least, it'll take 5 days. Add another 50,000 gold coins. We'll reach in 3 days. Lin Feng said. He could tell that the captain's idea was to take a big detour and then move forward from a place that was most likely to be safe. However, Lin Feng didn't want to waste any more time, so he wanted to be as fast as possible. It's not a matter of money. We'll definitely die if we go there. I won't sacrifice the lives of an entire ship to accompany you, the captain said righteously. At another 50,000. 3 days, Lin Feng said again. It's really not a matter of money. 3 days is too short. It'll take at least 4 days, the captain said with a resolute expression. A total of 200,000 gold coins. I only asked for 3 days. With that, Lin Feng took out the card with 200,000 gold coins and handed it over. Seeing this, the captain, who had a resolute expression, immediately smiled. He took the card and said, "No problem. 3 days it is." After checking that there were indeed 200,000 gold coins in the card, the captain continued, "But you must ensure our safety." "No problem." Lin Feng chuckled. He could tell that this captain was a smart person. In the future, if the Soul Master Alliance really covered the entire continent, this guy would be useful. The captain's expression just now was all an act. His purpose was to make Lin Feng add more money. It wasn't that 3 days wasn't dangerous. On the contrary, it was very dangerous. However, the captain was confident that he could get through it safely. More importantly, the captain could tell that Lin Feng and the others weren't here to die. They were very calm and composed. This could only mean that they were prepared. They weren't rash. In this way, the captain was 80% confident. Under such circumstances, he could earn 200,000 gold coins just by saying a few words. How could this captain not be a smart person? "Oh yes, what's your name?" Lin Feng asked suddenly. "I'm Zhou Heng." Captain Zhou Heng smiled and walked down the deck. On the spot, Lin Feng remembered this name in his heart. At the side, everyone was stunned by the conversation between the two. Just a second ago, Captain Zhou Heng looked like he wouldn't compromise even if he died. Why did he accept the money in the next second? Didn't he keep saying that it wasn't a matter of money? Why did he succumb to money in the end? "Fengge, can the captain really take us to our destination in 3 days? He won't just take the money and not do anything, right?" Tang Sen asked. "Of course. The captain is a smart person." Lin Feng smiled. Then everyone asked why the captain agreed in the end. Lin Feng didn't say much about it. He just smiled and said, "There's a skill called acting. As long as you learn it, it'll bring you a lot of convenience in your life." "All right, it's almost lunchtime. We'll have seafood soon. Let's just enjoy the scenery." Lin Feng smiled and didn't explain much. He turned around and enjoyed the scenery. Everyone else started to talk about acting. Why was acting called acting a skill? Time flew by quickly. Soon it was noon. For lunch, just as Lin Feng said, the ship prepared super fresh seafood for them. It was all freshly caught. Everyone was very curious about it. It was very interesting to eat it. Of course, because there were many types of seafood, some of them were quite unique. Not everyone could adapt to it, especially the raw meat. Not many people ate it. Chapter 474. By lunchtime, the ship had already sailed into the sea area with soul beasts. However, the soul beasts here were all relatively young. There were 100-year and 10-year soul beasts, and most of them weren't very aggressive. The crew on the ship also had relaxed expressions on their faces and didn't care much. The ship was also moving normally. At this time, everyone had also finished their lunch. Some continued to look at the sea, while others returned to the cabin to rest. As for Lin Feng, he stood on the guardrail by the deck with a cup of drink in his hand, enjoying the sea breeze quietly. Over the years, Lin Feng was also very tired. After all, he had been fighting all the time. Even when he wasn't fighting, he was thinking about how to obtain experience points. This kind of life was a little boring. Now that he was enjoying the sea breeze, it was rare for Lin Feng to have peace. Originally, he could have used the wings of the sky to fly to the Sea God's Island, and the time would have been shorter. Even if he took the time to search, 2 days would be enough. However, Lin Feng felt that it was too rushed and too boring to travel like that. In the end, he chose a large ship. "Feng Ge, if you go to the Sea God's Island, will I be able to catch up to you quickly?" Zhu Zhuqing came to Lin Feng's side and asked. At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing was wearing a tight suit and holding a cup of drink in her hand. She leaned lazily against the guardrail, revealing her perfect figure. Lin Feng looked at her from head to toe, smiled, and said, "I think so." It had to be said that Zhu Zhuqing's figure was really perfect. That S-shaped curve made Lin Feng's eyes go wide. In the past, Lin Feng didn't pay much attention to it, so he didn't look at it much. Now, Lin Feng couldn't help but marvel at this. "What do you mean by I should be able to?" Zhu Zhuqing smiled and asked, "Fengge, you said that it's best to condense a god seat by yourself to become a god. When do you plan to become a god?" In the past, Zhu Zhuqing was not very proactive. However, after 3 years of growth and the competition between her and Ning Rongrong, Zhu Zhuqing knew that if she didn't take the initiative, Lin Feng might run away with someone else. Now that she had found an opportunity, she immediately ran over. At the same time, Zhu Zhuqing was also very curious about Lin Feng's mysterious strength. She wasn't the only one. All of Shrek's 7 monsters were extremely curious about this. After all, Lin Feng was too strong, and he hadn't revealed his soul rings. Even when facing the 7 of them at the same time, he was still calm and composed. Under such circumstances, Zhu Zhuqing wanted to test him and see if he could deduce his specific strength. "I'm not sure about becoming a god, but it shouldn't take more than a few years," Lin Feng said with a smile. In his words, becoming a god was as simple as playing house. If he said he would become a god, he would become a god. Then, will Fengge wait for us? Zhu Zhuqing didn't doubt Lin Feng's words at all. In her eyes, Lin Feng was a mysterious and magical man. It was as if there was nothing he couldn't do. After all, Lin Feng had shocked her too many times over the years. Whether it was the soul power control method, the soul master tournament later on, or the various magical methods in school. All of this made Zhu Zhuqing trust Lin Feng without reservation. "I will," Lin Feng said solemnly. "The divine realm is a completely foreign world to me. If I were to ascend to the divine realm alone, it would be too lonely. So, for the sake of liveliness, I will wait for you guys. When the time comes, we will ascend to the god realm together and make a name for ourselves there." Lin Feng was speaking from the bottom of his heart. After all, it was too lonely to be alone. "Fengge, what is the god realm like? Compared to the continent of Douluo, is there a big difference?" Zhu Zhuqing took a sip of his drink and smiled. To be honest, Zhu Zhuqing's words were too straightforward. He didn't seem to be taking the initiative at all. This was something that couldn't be helped. After all, Lin Feng's aura was too strong. Although he didn't feel anything, when others talked to Lin Feng, unless they didn't know him, they would feel a little uncomfortable when they saw him. Even Ning Fengji didn't like to talk much with Lin Feng. There was no other reason except that Lin Feng was too smart. The things that he invented were all things that shocked the entire Soul Master world. Ning Fengji felt that he wasn't worthy to be with such a super genius. "I don't know what that place is like, but I reckon that the difference isn't too big. After all, a god used to be immortal too." Lin Feng shook his head and looked into the distance. Originally, most of Lin Feng's attention was attracted by Zhu Zhuqing's figure. But as the topic gradually deepened, Lin Feng also couldn't help but think of the god realm. "Fengge, after becoming a god, can he still come back?" Zhu Zhuqing's thoughts seemed to have drifted away with Lin Feng. "He should be able to." Lin Feng said, "God is a special kind of existence. As long as the people's heart desires, they can go there. Look, on the continent of Douluo, there are still many people who believe in the sea god. If the sea god wants to come to the world of Douluo, he can use this as a bridge and descend." To be honest, when Zhu Zhuqing asked this, he didn't expect to hear the answer at all. After all, these are things that could only be known after becoming a god. But Lin Feng actually gave her an answer. At this moment, she even suspected that Lin Feng was a god that descended into the world. The main reason was that he knew too much, and coupled with the various miraculous performances from before, Zhu Zhuqing had such a thought. However, this thought was too bizarre, and it only appeared in her mind for a moment before quickly dissipating. "I see." After nodding, Zhu Zhuqing remembered the purpose of her visit this time. She wanted to ask what position she had in Lin Feng's heart. Thinking, she opened her mouth and asked, Fengge, I... However, just as she spoke, the captain's roar came from behind. Everyone, pay attention. 500 meters to the northeast, a 10,000-year-soul beast has appeared. Everyone be careful. Now, the ship had been in the soul beast area for 1 or 2 hours, and encountering a 10,000-year-soul beast was very normal. But in the next second, the captain shouted again, that 10,000-year-soul beast has discovered us. Full rudder to the left, quickly escape. Seeing this, Lin Feng immediately shouted, sail normally, I'll go and kill it. Don't go. That's a devil shark, and it's extremely strong in the water. Although it's only 10,000 year, even Soul Douluo will find it difficult to deal with it. The captain shouted, wanting to stop Lin Feng. However, before he could say anything, Lin Feng had already swept off the ship and arrived on the surface of the sea. In the next second, he turned into a black line and rushed towards the 10,000-year devil shark. He stepped on the waves as if he was walking on flat ground, which was very shocking. Seeing this scene, the captain was shocked, because he realized that not only did Lin Feng not summon his soul ring, he didn't even reveal his martial soul. Under such circumstances, he was still able to move at such a fast speed. Just how abnormal was this person? Originally, he thought that Lin Feng was simply crazy and insisted on going into the sea to fight with the sea spirit beast. But now this guy was simply a monster. In the next second, the captain's mouth was wide open, because he realized that Lin Feng had already arrived at the head of the devil shark, and then stepped on the shark's head with his foot. Boom! It was as if that part of the sea was blown up by a bomb, and it instantly exploded. The blood-red seawater scattered around, and the figure of the devil shark was no longer there. Lin Feng also took advantage of the impact and leaped, rushing towards the big ship. How is this possible? That 10,000-year devil shark was stomped to death. The captain was shocked. On one hand, he was shocked by Lin Feng's strength. Killing a 10,000-year soul beast in the sea was as easy as stepping on an ant. On the other hand, when Lin Feng walked in the sea, his face was calm. This let the captain know that this guy was not afraid of the sea at all. Either Lin Feng was extremely strong, to the extent that he was afraid, or Lin Feng often fought in the sea, which was why he was so calm. Regardless of the situation, the captain knew that he had made the right bet. Not only was there no danger at sea this time, but he also earned a lot of gold coins. At this moment, Zhou Heng knew that if he was smart, he should return the 200,000 gold coins that he took earlier, and then build a relationship with Lin Feng. After all, he was so strong that he was definitely an important figure in the mainland. He was even a titled Douluo. As long as he curried favor with him, he would definitely benefit a lot. However, Zhou Heng did not need to be smart, because his roots were the sea and this ship. It was useless for him to curry favor with Lin Feng, because he would not follow him to the mainland. Therefore, compared to this illusory opportunity, the 200,000 gold coins in his hands were more tempting. Actually, he could bet that Lin Feng would not accept the 200,000 gold coins when he returned them. This way, he would still be able to gain a favorable impression, and he would not have to pay the 200,000 gold coins. However, the probability of him winning this bet was too low, so Zhou Heng only thought about it. Soon, Lin Feng stepped on the waves and jumped onto the deck, arriving at the center. Seeing this, Zhou Heng immediately cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your help, sir." Although he did not want to curry favor with him, he still had to show basic courtesy. Okay. Lin Feng nodded slightly, full speed ahead. Yes. Zhou Heng immediately took his leave and went to command. Lin Feng was not surprised that Zhou Heng had changed his way of addressing him as sir. In the continent of Douluo, where strength was respected, he had displayed his strength, and naturally, he would be respected. Fengge, you were so cool just now. That 10,000-year soul beast was killed in an instant. Ma Hongjun had walked out of the room at some point, and he immediately began to flatter Hui Yuhao. Oscar, on the other hand, was observing the corpse of the devil shark in the distance. He wanted to see how this kind of aquatic soul beast was different from the soul beasts on the mainland. The others were also shocked by the captain's shout just now. Now that Lin Feng had returned, they surrounded him and praised him. Lin Feng only smiled at these praises and replied casually with a few words. Lin Feng answered some of the questions about the sea spirit beasts with emphasis. Aquatic soul beasts are actually not much different from the soul beasts on the mainland. One is more used to fighting in the water, while the other is used to fighting on the mainland. If you want to express it visually, it is equivalent to the combination of home ground advantage and elemental restraint. There is no essential difference in the strength of the two sides. The main reason is because of this restraint, so there's such a huge gap in strength. If there is no such restraint, or if there's a soul master who is also good at fighting in the sea, then this restraint will be offset. After listening to Lin Feng's explanation, everyone was enlightened. Originally, they were very curious about aquatic soul beasts. Shuqinghe had never seen one before. Now that they heard such a vivid description, they felt that they had benefited a lot. Finally, Lin Feng said, "Now the ship is in the sea area where the 10,000-year soul beasts appear. Later, all of you can go into the sea and experience the feeling of fighting with aquatic soul beasts. But there is a prerequisite. You can't go into the sea alone without others knowing. There must be someone watching at the side. Also, when everyone goes into the sea, you must hold on to one of Oscar's mushroom intestines. This thing can save your life." Lin Feng said this very seriously. After all, it was a matter of life and death. He could not ignore it. "Got it," everyone responded. Oscar did not talk nonsense. He quickly made a pile of mushroom intestines and gave a few to everyone. Then, they excitedly went to the sea to experiment. In the end, only Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong were left by Lin Feng's side. Ning Rongrong wanted to pull Zhu Zhuqing into the sea to experiment, but Zhu Zhuqing did not seem to want to go, so he was a little slow. At this moment, Lin Feng remembered that Zhu Zhuqing seemed to want to say something to him. He immediately asked, "Take Shi, what did you want to say just now? Say it." "Just now." Ning Rongrong immediately became alert. She was a little tired just now and went back to her room to rest. Zhu Zhuqing actually took the opportunity to be alone with Feng Ge. Ning Rongrong was very depressed. "No, nothing. I just wanted to ask if you have any soul stones, Feng Ge." "I don't have many left," Zhu Zhuqing said. Now that Ning Rongrong was beside him, Zhu Zhuqing did not dare to ask such a question, so he casually said something perfunctory. "Yes." With that, Lin Feng took out a few soul stones and handed them over. He could see that Zhu Zhuqing was not telling the truth, but Lin Feng could also guess that it might have something to do with Ning Rongrong, so he did not ask much. At this moment, he said, "We didn't say anything just now. We just talked about God. Now the two of you should go and experiment more on how to fight in the sea. Otherwise, you will suffer in the future." Lin Feng's skill at changing the topic was very good. Soon, Ning Rongrong's attention was drawn from the matter just now to the test. Just like that, the two of them immediately went to experiment. Lin Feng was not idle either. He also followed them and began to guide them on how to use their strength better in the sea. After all, they had never done this kind of experiment before. Lin Feng's guidance could save them a lot of time. Chapter 475. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. After a day of experimentation and several actual battles, they were much better than before, even though they were still not used to the sea. If they were to fight now, they might not be a match for sea soul beasts of the same rank, but they could still contend against weaker sea soul beasts. As for killing sea soul beasts, it was very difficult because their soul skills were restrained by the sea. Especially Ma Hongjun, he was completely restrained. Even if they were to fight against a 5,000-year sea soul beast, he would still be hung up and beaten. Because of this, everyone mocked Ma Hongjun. In the past, Ma Hongjun was very proud in front of everyone because of his special flame. But now, because of his flame, he was crippled, so everyone mocked him even more. But ridicule aside, everyone's relationship was still very good. Now, they could even fight together in the sea to a certain extent. Even Shuqinghe gradually blended in with everyone. This feeling was very strange to him. This was because he had never experienced it before. No wonder Shrek's 7 monsters were able to display such great strength in the tournament. The 7 of them had seamless cooperation. At this time, everyone had arrived in an extremely dangerous sea. Although Zhou Hong had taken many detours, there were still many 10,000-year-soul beasts in the sea, and many of them were very aggressive. So during this period of time, everyone was very vigilant. Once a soul beast attacked the ship, they would fight it off. As for Lin Feng, after his first attack yesterday, he did not attack again. There was no need to. Anyway, there was no danger, and it was good to train everyone. He was more concerned about when he could see the deep-sea devil whale king. As long as he saw it, Lin Feng would immediately put a tracking device on it. After that, he would find a chance to kill it. After all, it was a 900,000-year soul ring and a powerful soul bone. Lin Feng valued such a treasure very much. However, perhaps because the deep-sea magic whale king was sleeping at the bottom of the sea, Lin Feng secretly sent many clones to look for it, but they couldn't find it. In the end, the ship crossed the dangerous sea area, but Lin Feng still couldn't find the deep-sea magic whale king. Regarding this, Lin Feng was not too disappointed. After all, the soul beast was here, and it couldn't have run anywhere else. He would kill it after he went to the sea god's island. Just like that, another day passed. Zhou Hong had already steered the ship away from the dangerous sea. There were many small islands in the sea ahead. Some pirates and the like gathered on these small islands and used them as their base. At the same time, there were many natives on these islands. They didn't like life in the city, so it was quite good to live on the islands. After all, some islands were quite large. There were everything on them, such as mountains, forests, valleys, forests, rivers, and so on. They looked like small continents. Strictly speaking, the Sea God's Island was an island with extremely good conditions. It was also very large, and it was equivalent to a small continent. Sir, there's still half a day's journey before we reach the target sea area. Zhou Hong found Lin Feng and reported the current situation. Right now, this sea area is where pirates gather. There are more than a dozen pirate groups, big and small. Lin Feng interrupted him halfway. Don't talk nonsense. My people will take care of this. You just need to hurry forward. Yes, sir. Zhou Hong immediately shut up, bowed, and left. Pirates? Lin Feng had never taken him seriously. This was because the pirates in Douluo's world weren't soul masters. Even if they were, their soul power wouldn't be very high. Being a soul master was much more promising than being a pirate. Which soul master would choose to be a pirate? Of course, things weren't absolute. Maybe some soul masters liked to be pirates. However, there were also ruthless people among pirates. Even if they were ordinary people, they could still kill a soul ancestor because of their rich battle experience and their strong physique. However, the weakest person on Lin Feng's side was a soul emperor. There was no need to be afraid of pirates. Under such circumstances, the ship continued to sail. After about 2 hours, Lin Feng was stunned. This was because he saw that there were pirates in front of them preparing to intercept them. Brother Feng, it's pirates. 2 big ships are blocking our way, Ning Rong Rong shouted. Because of the pirates, everyone gathered on the deck and looked ahead curiously. That's right. Everyone was curious because they had never seen pirates before. This made them feel very curious. Fengge, what should we do? Should we burn their ships? I'm good at this. Ma Hongjun was eager to try. Although he couldn't deal with sea spirit beasts, he could easily deal with this group of pirates. His evil fire could easily burn 2 ships. At this time, Zhou Hong walked up and said, Sir, that group of pirates is called the Purple Pearl. They're the largest pirate group in the area. They only rob and don't kill. Later, I just need to give them a few hundred gold coins, and we can go over. As a captain who often roamed the sea, Zhou Hong knew about the few big pirate groups in the sea. The Purple Pearl had a good reputation. Lin Feng ignored Zhou Hong's words and said, Xiao Wu, go and capture the leader of that group of pirates with Xiao San. I have something to ask them. This place was very close to the Sea God's Island. The people living nearby should know how to get to the Sea God's Island. Lin Feng only had a rough location on the map. If he wanted to find it himself later, he might have to spend more time. Therefore, he could just ask the pirates directly. All right, Brother Feng. The two of them nodded and rushed towards the two pirate ships in front. They didn't fly over. Instead, they rushed forward on the surface of the sea. The blue-silver Emperor vines in Tang San's hand danced and weaved into a ship under his feet. The vines on the ship danced and provided power for the two people on the ship to rush forward. This extreme use of his martial soul was a reflection of Tang San's control of his soul power. In less than half a minute, Tang San and Xiao Wu rushed to the side of the pirate ship. "Good fellas, two fat sheep sent themselves to our doorstep. Capture them." Seeing the two people on the ship, the pirates on the ship rubbed their hands and prepared to capture them. However, the two of them were too fast. As soon as they reached the ship, Tang San wrapped the vines in his hand in the middle of the ship's mainsail. After that, he pulled the vines and the two of them flew directly above the ship. At this moment, Xiao Wu jumped out of Tang San's arms and ran directly to the captain's room on the deck. There was a small platform there, and on it stood a valiant-looking purple-robed woman of about 27 or 28 years old. This fellow was the captain of the Purple Pearl Pirates, and her name was Purple Pearl. As for Xiao Wu, she actually didn't know Purple Pearl's identity. The reason why she ran towards her was very simple. The position that the other party was standing in was not simple. Coupled with her clothes, her identity was definitely not simple. As long as Xiao Wu caught her, she would definitely know who the captain was. With this thought in mind, Xiao Wu wanted to catch her as soon as possible. At this moment, after seeing Xiao Wu attack, Purple Pearl's body emitted a strong soul power fluctuation. In the next second, 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 2 black soul rings appeared on her body. Soul Emperor? For a moment, Xiao Wu was sure that this fellow was either the captain or the vice captain. After all, a soul master at the Soul Emperor level was too rare among the pirates. She was definitely one of the few people with the highest status. This made it even more important to catch her. With that thought, Xiao Wu directly used her teleportation soul skill in the air and instantly appeared behind Purple Pearl. In the next second, Xiao Wu's legs clamped around Purple Pearl's neck, and she used the force to throw her down. Bang! With a muffled sound, Purple Pearl's face turned pale from the fall. She didn't understand the situation at all. Her martial soul had just possessed her body when she was attacked. It really made her dumbfounded. In the next second, she didn't even have a chance to counterattack. This was because Tang San's vines had already wrapped around her body. The poison on them had been released, and she couldn't even use her soul power normally. At this moment, less than 2 seconds had passed since Tang San and Xiao Wu rushed onto the ship. And it was in this short second that the captain of the pirate group was captured by the two of them. This was a Soul Emperor. No matter how weak he was subdued in 2 seconds. It was really too shocking. From this, it could be seen that Tang San and Xiao Wu's tacit understanding was extremely high. Captain! Captain! For a moment, there were all kinds of anxious shouts on the ship. Those who were close wanted to rush up to save the captain. As for Tang San and Xiao Wu, their faces were full of joy. Originally, they were going to ask Purple Pearl who the captain was. They didn't expect that her identity would be revealed as soon as they caught her. This way, they could directly capture Purple Pearl and report back. But then again, the captain of the pirate group was actually a woman, and she looked very beautiful. It was really unbelievable. Of course, although they were surprised, they didn't stop what they were doing. After knowing Purple Pearl's identity, Tang San carried her and jumped off the ship with Xiao Wu in an instant, rushing towards Lin Feng. Behind them, the pirates still wanted to chase, but they were too slow. By the time they turned the ship around, the two had already brought Purple Pearl to Lin Feng. Feng Ge, this is the captain of the pirate group. With that, Tang San released the vines and released the shocked Purple Pearl. Xiao Wu looked at the surrounding people with a proud expression and said, "I'm amazing, right? This guy is a Soul Emperor, and I suppressed her in an instant." Soul Emperor? Everyone was surprised. They weren't surprised that Xiao Wu could suppress someone in an instant. This was normal because they had seen Xiao Wu challenge a Soul Master on the level of Soul Douluo before. A mere Soul Emperor. Wasn't it easy to capture? They were surprised that a dignified Soul Emperor was actually the captain of a pirate group. After all, a Soul Emperor was considered an expert on the continent of Douluo. Whether it was a faction or a royal family, they could live a good life. But now, she was actually a pirate. They couldn't understand it all. Zhou Heng was completely different from the others. This was a Soul Emperor. A little girl was actually able to suppress her in an instant. Could she be Soul Douluo? Just as everyone was having their own thoughts, Lin Feng raised his hand and used his soul power to lift the purple pearl up. Just now, when Tang Xin took away the vines, the toxins were also taken away. Purple Pearl woke up quickly. When she saw the situation around her, she immediately tried to struggle. But Lin Feng's soul power was too strong. Even moving was difficult for her. "Who the hell are you people?" Zi Jinzhu asked in horror. She was truly frightened. A dignified Soul Emperor didn't even have the slightest chance to resist. Furthermore, they were able to suppress her from a distance. "I'll ask you a question now. If you can answer it, I'll let you go and give you money." Lin Feng smiled. "If you can't answer it, I'll feed you to the sharks." After he finished speaking, Lin Feng didn't give Purple Pearl any time to react. He immediately asked, "Where is Sea God's Island?" Purple Pearl didn't hesitate. She immediately pointed to the northwest and said, "It's in that direction. We'll reach it in half a day." She knew that she was a fish on a chopping board. She could only live if she obeyed. "Very good. You'll be rewarded with 10,000. Lin Feng's face instantly lit up with a smile. He could tell that Purple Pearl wasn't lying. Sea God's Island should be in that direction. However, the half a day, she said, was probably calculated based on the speed of her ship. If Lin Feng was on this ship, they would probably arrive in 1 or 2 hours. After Tang San heard Lin Feng's words, he took out a card with 10,000 gold soul coins from his soul tool and handed it over. Purple Pearl didn't know what was going on with Lin Feng. She could only accept the card as he said. Just as she thought that Lin Feng was going to continue asking her questions or do something else, Lin Feng suddenly stopped her. Lin Feng said, "All right, Xiao San, send her back." "Okay, Brother Feng." Tang San nodded his head and used the vines to tie the Purple Pearl to himself. Then, he quickly rushed forward. At this moment, Zi Jinzhu's face was filled with a dumbfounded expression. She was confused by Lin Feng's actions. She was scared witless. Did he capture her just to ask her a question? This experience was too surreal. Even after she was placed back on the deck, Purple Pearl didn't regain her senses. "Know your place. Don't block my way." At this moment, Tang Sen left this sentence behind and quickly returned. Purple Pearl quickly regained her senses. She shouted, "Everyone retreat." No matter what, she had survived. Facing Lin Feng, who was unfathomably strong, it was better to run. At the same time, Lin Feng looked at Zhou Heng, who was still in a daze, and said, "What are you waiting for?" "Full speed ahead towards the northwest." "Yes, sir." Zhou Heng was stunned. He quickly nodded. In fact, he had something to say about going to Sea God's Island. However, he was stunned by Lin Feng's aura. How could he dare to say anything? Chapter 476. After Zhou Heng left, the people on the deck began to talk among themselves. Xiao Wu and Ma Hongjun were the most talkative. The former was bragging about what she had done, while the latter was simply talking too much. Because Ma Hongjun spoke without thinking, he was beaten up by Xiao Wu. After Zhou Heng learned of the situation, he immediately ordered the ship to move forward at full speed. The Purple Pearl pirates didn't even dare to say a word. They immediately fled. They were shocked. Their captain, who was a Soul Emperor, was captured in an instant. Even when they returned to the ship, they were still terrified. They didn't have any intention of fighting back against such a powerful enemy. Just like that, the ship continued to move forward. There weren't many aquatic soul beasts in the next part of the sea. Perhaps it was because there were many soul masters living nearby. The ship didn't encounter any obstacles along the way. They were getting closer and closer to the Sea God's Island. At noon, Lin Feng and the others were eating seafood on the deck. Zhou Heng walked over and said, "Sir, we're about to reach the Sea God's Island. I heard that there are powerful soul beasts guarding the Sea God's Island. If any ship dares to approach the island, it will be attacked fiercely." Lin Feng knew what Zhou Heng was talking about. He had read in the original book that the guardian of the sea god's island was a 100,000-year great white demon shark. This type of shark was a pack soul beast. If anyone dared to attack a single great white demon shark, they would be attacked by the entire pack. However, this was nothing to Lin Feng. He said, "You don't have to worry about that. Once we reach the edge of the sea, you don't have to go in. We'll go in by ourselves." "Yes, sir," Zhou Heng said with a smile. They didn't have to take any risks. This was good news for Zhou Heng. Xiao Wu and the others were a little confused as they asked, "Brother Feng, is that guardian soul beast dangerous? How strong is it?" "It's at most 100,000-year soul beast. Don't worry," Lin Feng said with a smile. "When the time comes, we'll all fly over. Fly high. That way, even 100,000-year soul beast won't be able to attack us." That's right. This was Lin Feng's plan. Because they had just arrived at the sea god's island, Lin Feng couldn't just fight his way in without knowing anything. He had to be on the safe side. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if the sea god's island resisted them. After all, Lin Feng still wanted to take advantage of the sea god's island. So that's how it is. Fengge is really smart to be able to think of such a method. Oscar very cleverly began to flatter him. Lin Feng was speechless. Everyone was speechless. There really wasn't anything to brag about. After all, anyone with a bit of brain could tell that Oscar's bragging was equivalent to looking down on Lin Feng's intelligence. Of course, this was only a small interlude. Very soon, the ship arrived at the border of the sea god's island. In front of them, there were many sea spirit beasts poking their heads out to observe Lin Feng's ship. If their ship dared to step into the waters of the sea god's island, it would be attacked. So Zhou Heng stopped the ship. "Sir, this is as far as I can send you. All right, you can go now. Don't wait for us. The rental service has ended." Lin Feng waved his hand. After he finished speaking, he nodded to everyone and said, "Let's go." In the next second, under the shocked eyes of Zhou Heng and the crew, Lin Feng and the others took out the wings of the sky and put it on. Then, they flew into the sky. What was this thing that could allow people to fly? The people in Oceanic City had never even heard of the wings of the sky, let alone seen it. It felt like in the real world, someone suddenly took out the Doraemon bamboo dragonfly and put it on their head. Then, they flew into the sky. The impact of this new thing shocked Zhou Heng and the others. Although they were shocked, Zhou Heng didn't stay any longer and quickly left. As for Lin Feng and the others, they were flying rapidly in the sky. They could see that there were many sea spirit beasts in the waters. If a ship were to come in, it would be very dangerous. Now that they were flying in the sky, they felt extremely safe. Moreover, they could see the sea god's island from afar. The island was huge, and the trees on it were lush and green. It was very pleasing to look at. "Fengge, that must be the sea god's island. It's so big," Tang Sen exclaimed. They were flying at an altitude of more than 1,000 meters, and the sea god's island was about 100 kilometers away. Under such circumstances, it would be good if an island was the size of a sesame seed. However, the sea god's island was the size of a fist. It was obvious how big the island was. "That's right. The sea god's island is not far away. Let's hurry over." Lin Feng nodded. Hearing this, everyone didn't waste any time and quickly flew towards the sea god's island. As they got closer to the sea god's island, it became bigger and bigger in their eyes. When they were about 10 kilometers away, Lin Feng shouted, "Everyone start descending. Get ready to land." Because of the distance, they were no longer small black dots to the people on the sea god's island. In order to not be discovered, everyone had to gradually lower their altitude. Just like that, the group of people quickly approached the sea god's island and quickly descended. When they were about to reach the sea god's island, everyone deliberately looked around. In the end, they chose to land in the southwest direction. This was a better place to land. There were more trees here, and it was suitable for them to gather information on the island. At the same time, there weren't many aquatic soul beasts in this small area of the sea. In the end, they made the right choice. When they landed on the sea god's island, they didn't encounter any aquatic soul beasts. It's so warm. Yes, the temperature here is much higher than outside. It's so warm. It feels like early summer. The trees here are completely different from the ones in Heavendo City. It's so special. As soon as they landed on the island, everyone couldn't stop talking. The biggest difference was the temperature here. It was actually very warm. One had to know that it was late autumn, and it was almost winter. The Sea God's Island was located in the north, and the temperature outside was only about 5 degrees Celsius. Everyone was powerful soul masters, so they were able to dress casually. The soul masters on the ship were all wearing cotton-padded jackets. Other than the temperature, the plants here were full of greenery. Although the types of trees here were completely different from those on land, it made everyone feel as if they were back in the Stardew Great Forest. Furthermore, the air here was very fresh, and it was very comfortable to smell. It was like the caress of the sea. The scenery here had a kind of breathtaking beauty. After everyone saw it, they felt a kind of peace in their hearts. Lin Feng could also sense that the entire Sea God's Island was enveloped by a mysterious force. It made Lin Feng feel as if he was in a city of slaughter. Of course, this feeling wasn't suppressing his soul power or soul skills. It was like a spring breeze. Although the manifestations were different in essence, they were all manifestations of divine power. Lin Feng was very interested in this. However, he didn't know much about divine power, so he could only think about it. All right, don't be surprised anymore. Lin Feng called out to everyone. Everyone, sit down and recover your soul power. Make sure you're in a good state. If we encounter any unexpected situations later, we'll have a chance to deal with them. Yes, Fengge. Everyone agreed. Coming to a completely unfamiliar place, everyone was a little flustered. After all, this was the place where the Sea God's inheritance was. There were many experts here, and it was impossible for them not to be flustered. However, after seeing Lin Feng, their flustered hearts calmed down. After all, this was Lin Feng. He was the stabilizing force in everyone's hearts. As long as he was here, he could give everyone an unlimited amount of peace. After an hour, everyone was done resting. Not only did they replenish their soul power, but they also replenished the soul stones in the wings of the sky and Oscar's various sausages. Everyone had already prepared these things. Everything was already in place. Very good. Lin Feng smiled. Just now, I did a simple check of the surroundings. Behind us is the sea, to the east and west are forests. If we keep walking, we'll reach a beach. To the north is a forest. If we continue walking, we'll reach a small village. It seems to be the native residents of the Sea God's Island. Because everyone was here, Lin Feng was afraid of alarming the people on the Sea God's Island, so he didn't investigate in detail. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go straight to the north and say that we want to accept the Sea God's inheritance. Is that okay? Ma Hongjun asked. Let's ask around first. Otherwise, if we rush out rashly, what if there's a conflict? Xueqing said. Because of the martial soul hall, Xueqing was still very afraid of the soul masters on the Sea God's Island. The reason why he came today was because he was now the crown prince of the Heavendo Empire, and because he wanted to be with Lin Feng and the others. For some reason, Xueqing had a feeling that following Lin Feng and the others would bring him great benefits. It was precisely because of this reason that he had always been on good terms with Lin Feng and the others. At this moment, Tang San said, "There's no need to ask around. Since our purpose of coming to the Sea God's Island is to accept the Sea God's inheritance, then we'll just openly look for them. Otherwise, what if we're treated as criminals?" Lin Feng also smiled and said, "That's right. Directly looking for them is a good choice." Hearing this, Ma Hongjun immediately said with a happy expression, "Did you hear that? Fengge and third brother both agree with my point of view." There was no need to mention how proud his tone was. After all, when they talked in the past, his suggestions or words were always disagreed with by everyone. Sometimes, he would even be beaten up. This made Ma Hongjun very depressed. Now that he had been affirmed by others, especially by Lin Feng and Tang San, this was simply unprecedented. He had a feeling of exaltation and satisfaction. Regarding this, everyone was quite speechless, but they didn't say anything. With Lin Feng speaking, the main tone was set. Everyone quickly prepared and walked towards the north. Not long after, a low shout suddenly came from the front. "Who's there?" In the next second, 8 figures dashed out from the nearby forest and blocked the group of people. The 8 of them had different appearances, but they were all wearing the same clothes. They were dressed in a light yellow outfit. Lin Feng also had some understanding of the clothes of the sea god's island. The color of a person's clothes didn't represent their strength level, but it represented the difficulty of their god's assessment. This color was the same as soul rings. White was the lowest, yellow was second, and above that were purple, black, and red. The group of people in front of them were all wearing yellow clothes. It was obvious that the difficulty of their assessment wasn't low. This group of people was neither young nor old. The oldest was about 40 years old, and the youngest looked to be 20 years old. At this moment, their eyes were filled with surprise. This was because they usually saw people wearing different colored clothes. Now that Lin Feng and the others didn't wear that kind of clothes, they were very surprised. They couldn't figure out why there were suddenly people here. At this moment, Tang Xin walked in front of everyone under Lin Feng's instructions and said loudly, "We are from the Heaven Do Empire. We hope to pass the Sea God's assessment and join the Sea God's island." Hearing this, the middle-aged man who was the leader of the 8 frowned and sized everyone up. Then he said, "It's not easy for land-based soul masters to come to the Sea God's island. I see that all of you are so young, and you can be considered young and promising. However, what I want to say is that the Sea God's assessment for land-based soul masters is many times more difficult than for sea-based soul masters. It can be said that I have never seen a land-based soul master pass the Sea God's assessment. So if you don't want to die, hurry up and leave. Young people are strong, but it's not worth it if you lose your life because of recklessness." After hearing this person's words, Lin Feng remembered that there was such a saying. Because of the Sea God's assessment was easier for sea-based soul masters. However, for land-based soul masters, the difficulty was many times more difficult. However, Tang Xin smiled and said, "Senior, since we are here, we are prepared. No matter how difficult the assessment is, we want to try it." Hearing the determination and confidence in Tang San's voice, and seeing the looks in the eyes of the others, the 8 of them knew that this was a group of soul masters with strong beliefs. Seeing this, the middle-aged man sighed softly. "Since that's the case, let me tell you one last thing. The Sea God's assessment is extremely difficult. He might ask you to hunt a 100,000-year soul beast. Once the assessment starts, you are not allowed to leave halfway, even if you lose your life. So have you thought it through?" It had to be said that this middle-aged man was quite responsible. He said so much to everyone. This time, it wasn't just Tang San. Everyone replied, "Yes, we are all going." Seeing this, the middle-aged man sighed and didn't say anything. He nodded and said, "I hope you don't regret it. Follow me." Chapter 477. As he led everyone to follow, the middle-aged man turned around and said a few words to a young man beside him. They were speaking a very strange language with a very strange tone. No one could understand what they were saying. As soon as he finished speaking, the young man nodded and ran ahead first. The middle-aged man slowly led the way in front, while Lin Feng and the rest quietly followed behind. Soon, the group walked into a forest. The air in the forest was very fresh, and the most important thing was that it was quiet. Only the sound of everyone walking could be heard. Blue silvergrass was a very common plant. Even on Sea God's Island, there were many blue silvergrass. As this place was unfamiliar, Tang San subconsciously connected his blue silvergrass and tried to use his spiritual power to explore the surroundings to see if there was any danger. However, after a few seconds, Tang San discovered that there seemed to be an invisible force around him that was blocking his mental power, making it impossible for him to investigate the situation around him. Suddenly, the middle-aged man in front stopped and turned to Tang San and said, "Don't think about using your spiritual power to explore the surroundings. This is Sea God's Island. Every blade of grass and every tree is protected by the Sea God. Don't disturb them." These words made Tang San's expression change. This middle-aged man wasn't very strong and was only a soul emperor. Even so, he was still able to detect his spiritual power, which really surprised him. Seeing this, Lin Feng had a faint smile on his face, and a trace of disdain appeared at the corner of his mouth. What's Sea God's protection? It was just a kind of divine power domain. As long as you passed the Sea God's test, you would be able to form a connection with this domain. As for Tang San and the others, they would be restricted to a certain extent within this domain. As for Lin Feng, he wouldn't be affected because he had 2 million-year soul rings. In other words, Lin Feng was no different on Sea God's island than outside. However, because of his caution, Lin Feng didn't use his spiritual power to look around carelessly. Instead, he was very disciplined. After saying something to Tang San, the middle-aged man didn't say anything else and continued to lead everyone forward. Not long after, the group of people passed through this forest, and their eyes suddenly opened up. Wow! Seeing the situation in front of them, everyone couldn't help but exclaim. This was a huge pool with a diameter of about 500 meters. It was surrounded by a dense forest. If that was all there was to it, it wouldn't be enough to shock everyone. The main thing was that the water in the pool was moving without any wind. It was like the ocean on a stormy day, with surging waves. In the middle of the pool, there was a triangular platform with a very strange stone pillar standing on it. There was a special sculpture on top of the stone pillar. There were a bunch of ancient patterns carved on it, which should be some kind of unknown text. There was a special energy emitting from it. Below the stone pillar sat a person with his eyes closed. He seemed to be meditating. The most eye-catching thing about this person was that he was wearing a set of black clothes. This was the second best clothing on the Sea God's Island, second only to red clothes. From this, it could be seen that this person was of high status. In front, the yellow-clothed, middle-aged man who was leading the way had a reserved look on his face. He was very cautious in front of the black-clothed man. But soon, he used a tone similar to that of a sacrificial chant and said, "Welcome to Sea Zhonghai, Seahorse Holy Pillar." The Seahorse Holy Pillar is one of the 7 holy pillars of the Sea God's Island. The Sea God has bestowed the 7 holy pillars with great divine power. You can use the 7 holy pillars to spread the God's will. If any foreign soul masters want to be tested, you just have to come to the holy pillar. You will receive the Lord Sea God's test here. After he finished chanting, the middle-aged man immediately turned to face the triangular platform. His entire body bent 90 degrees as he bowed. Then he released his soul rings. There were 2 yellow, 3 purple, and 1 black. In the next second, his soul power and his voice suppressed the waves as he came in front of the black-clothed man. "Lord Seahorse, we discovered 9 land-dwelling soul masters near the Bund. They want to be tested by the Lord Sea God. Please allow them." Lin Feng and the others all thought of the same thing when they said this. This guy's soul ring actually appeared when he used his soul power. This guy's control over his soul power is too weak. Of course, this was from the perspective of a group of geniuses like them. After all, he was already a soul emperor, but he couldn't even control his own soul rings. His control was too weak. Even the Soul Kings in the Soul Master Alliance who had learned how to control their soul power were stronger than him. Of course, from the perspective of all the Soul Masters on the continent of Douluo, this middle-aged man in yellow was already very powerful. At the very least, a Soul Emperor could use his own soul power to transmit his voice further. This was an ability that only Soul Sages could master. Just as everyone was thinking about this, the black-clothed man under the Seahorse Holy Pillar suddenly opened his eyes and swept his gaze over them. They were more than 200 meters away, but his gaze still made everyone feel a little pressured. He was a titled Douluo. Instantly, everyone realized the black-clothed man's strength. This aura was definitely something that only a titled Douluo could possess. In the next second, the black-clothed man spoke. "If any land-dwelling soul masters want to be tested by the Lord Sea God, it's very simple. You just have to pass through the sea and come to the Seahorse Holy Pillar. Then, you'll be qualified to be tested." The black-clothed man's voice was very loud and sonorous. He was very energetic, and everyone could tell that he was a good candidate to pilot a warship. As he finished speaking, the Seahorse Holy Pillar behind him suddenly lit up. Pale blue light shot towards the top of the Holy Pillar. After that, it spread out in the shape of an umbrella and enveloped the surrounding 10 meters. This was a special layer of light that could prevent flying-type soul skills and assault-type soul skills. This also meant that they had to rely on themselves for the last 10 meters. In fact, this restriction wasn't very big. After all, 10 meters was nothing to soul emperors and soul sages. The main reason was because of Seahorse Douluo. If he deliberately stopped them, it would be very difficult for them to enter the Holy Pillar's platform. However, no one was fearful in the face of such difficulties. They didn't even say anything. After looking at each other, Dai Mubai consciously walked to the front. In the next second, he possessed his martial soul. His muscles expanded, and his entire body was filled with a violent aura. Following this, he charged towards the Seahorse Holy Pillar. On the other hand, Seahorse Douluo was a little surprised when he saw this. However, he didn't stop what he was doing. As he waved his hand, the churning waves rose again and sealed off Dai Mubai's path. However, Dai Mubai wasn't flustered at all. His fourth soul ring instantly appeared. After that, it flickered before it disappeared. At first glance, Dai Mubai didn't seem to have done anything. However, he had already used his fourth soul skill, White Tiger Shadow Strike. This soul skill was originally an area of effect soul skill. It could unleash a huge fish shadow. However, Dai Mubai changed it. He condensed a fish shadow in his hand and didn't unleash it. In this way, Dai Mubai seemed to be wearing two huge air gloves. He supported himself with his hands and ignored the churning waves as he leaped forward. The gloves were very strong. As he supported himself with his hands, he leaped dozens of meters. The Seahorse Douluo was completely rooted to the spot upon seeing this, and he even forgot to unleash his follow-up attack. However, when there were only 50 meters left, Douluo regained his senses. He immediately summoned the waves and charged towards Dai Mubai. However, these waves were useless against him. Dai Mubai casually waved his hand, and the shadowy gloves dispersed the waves. Even when the scattered waves hit his body, Dai Mubai was protected by his soul power. He wasn't hurt at all. Finally, under Douluo's astonished gaze, Dai Mubai landed in front of him. Logically speaking, the Seahorse Douluo should be praising Dai Mubai at a time like this before commenting on what had just happened. However, he didn't have time to say anything. This was because Xiao Wu couldn't wait to rush over. Furthermore, the astonishment in the Seahorse Douluo's eyes intensified. This was because he discovered that Xiao Wu didn't possess her martial soul. She didn't even reveal her soul rings. Most importantly, Xiao Wu was still flashing above the waves. Teleportation. She was teleporting nonstop. She didn't reveal her martial soul or soul rings. How did she do it? In less than 3 seconds, Douluo saw Xiao Wu in front of him. She was blinking her big eyes with a curious look on her face. However, before he could ask the question in his heart, Tang San had already set off. He wasn't the only one. The rest of the team seemed to be getting impatient. They formed a group and set off. Tang San led the way. Just like when they were on the ocean, the blue-silver emperor vines in his hand intertwined to form a boat. After that, he carried everyone towards the Holy Pillar. However, Douluo was serious now. His soul power started to fluctuate wildly. Under the boat, the waves turned into a giant hand and flipped the boat over. However, everyone on the boat reacted quickly. Tang San controlled his blue-silver emperor vines to form a giant pillar. He plunged them into the sea and formed a platform on the ocean surface. Lin Feng carried Ning Rongrong with his left hand and Oscar with his right. He stepped on vines and jumped 100 meters into the air. He crashed into the Holy Pillar. Behind him, Tang San released his blue-silver emperor vines. They wrapped around the trees in the forest. After that, they turned into slingshots and shot towards the platform. Ma Hongjun, Xue Qinghe, and Zhu Zhuqing relied on their powerful soul power. They stepped on the waves and rushed towards the platform. At this moment, Douluo's attention was attracted by Lin Feng and Tang San. The rest of the team took this opportunity to get onto the platform. As for the remaining people, the Seahorse Douluo raised his seawater and transformed it into a sea tornado to intercept them in the air. Because the Holy Pillar had a layer of defense mechanism, if these people fell straight down, they would eventually be ejected. In the seahorse Douluo's mind, his sea dragon tornado would restrain them the instant they were ejected and then drag them out of this place. However, Lin Feng stepped on the void when he got close to the barrier. He stood on top of the barrier. After that, he easily landed on the platform with the two of them. Douluo's eyes narrowed when he saw this. How'd he do that? There were no soul power undulations. He stood on top of the barrier. Even he couldn't do that. Therefore, this scene truly shocked him. Tang Sen took this opportunity to use his vines to reduce his speed and land on the platform. At this point, Lin Feng and the rest landed on the platform of the Holy Pillar. They all had different expressions on their faces. Some were excited, some were calm, and some were curious. Ning Rongrong even looked a little shy. She wasn't thinking about the sea god at all. She was thinking about the warmth in Lin Feng's arms. It was too safe. The few of you have really exceeded my expectations. Your soul skills are actually so strange. I believe that you must be incredible geniuses on the continent. Although he didn't know much about the soul masters on the continent, Douluo was sure that there weren't many soul masters as talented as them. Sir, we're from the Soul Master Alliance. Tang Sen bowed slightly. He had to show basic respect to someone as powerful as Douluo. Soul Master Alliance? Douluo was a little confused. He had never heard of it before. It's a new alliance. It's mainly in the Heaven Do Empire. Tang Sen explained casually. I see. Douluo nodded and didn't ask any more questions. Actually, he wanted to ask how Xiao Wu and Lin Feng were able to teleport and stop in the air. However, it was embarrassing for him to ask a junior. Hence, Douluo didn't ask any more questions. He quickly said, Soul Masters from the continent, since you've passed the Sea God's test, I'll ask the Sea God to give you a test. After he finished speaking, he walked slowly to the Holy Pillar. His eyes were full of sincerity. At this moment, his voice became low. One of you, come in front of me. Hearing this, everyone knew that the real divine test was about to begin. According to the middle-aged man in yellow, once they accepted the divine test, they couldn't stop it midway. Even if they died, it couldn't be canceled. Hence, everyone was still a little nervous. This was especially so for Xueqinghe. He was a little afraid. He was afraid that the sea god would do something to him because of his identity as a member of the Martial Soul Hall. Under such circumstances, Dai Mubai was still the first to walk forward. He came in front of Douluo. He turned around to look at everyone. His eyes were full of determination. Everyone cheered him on with their gazes. At this moment, Douluo raised his hands and placed them in front of his chest. Then, he put his palms together and started to clock in. A faint blue light appeared in his palms. Then, the blue color gradually deepened and became stronger. Then, when the light reached a limit, the entire Holy Pillar was covered in a layer of faint blue light. The light spread along the Holy Pillar and reached the top. Then Douluo stretched out his right hand and pointed at Dai Mubai. In the next moment, a blue pillar of light descended from the sky and enveloped Dai Mubai. Chapter 478. The pillar of light appeared in an instant and shot straight up into the sky. It gave off a strange feeling. However, Dai Mubai, who was bathed in the pillar of light, was a little confused. He didn't feel anything at all. It was as if the sun was shining on him. But soon, the color of the pillar of light started to change. It turned from blue to white in an instant. Then, it quickly turned yellow and then purple. The speed of the change slowed down a little. After about 3 seconds, it gradually turned black. The black light almost covered Dai Mubai's entire body. It was extremely thick, and it was still changing. On the seahorse Holy Pillar, the black light started to climb from the bottom of the pillar. Douluo was shocked. The black test hadn't appeared for a long time. He didn't expect to see it on a soul master from a land. On the other hand, the group of yellow-robed soul masters on the outside had a trace of sympathy on their faces. After all, the black test was second only to the red one in the Sea God's test. Although the rewards were great, the difficulty was also very high. On the Sea God's Island, the soul masters who could pass the black test were at least at the level of a titled soul master. Duh. But in the past few hundred years, the Sea God had sent dozens of black tests. But only a few people passed in the end. The mortality rate was as high as 70%. So when they saw Dai Mubai's black test, they felt sorry for him. However, the others on the platform weren't worried at all. They all thought that the harder the test, the better. That way, the better the rewards would be. As for the danger, they were all very confident. They weren't afraid of danger at all. Tang San and the others were cheering for Dai Mubai when they saw the black lines on the seahorse holy pillar climbing up. Come on, keep climbing. Boss Dai, come on, climb to the top. When Douluo heard their cheers, he was dumbfounded. This was a test sent by the sea god. The black test was already very difficult. He had passed the black test in the past. It was a narrow escape. He was already surprised that Dai Mubai had obtained the black assessment. How could there be someone who wanted it to be more difficult? Wasn't he in a hurry to reincarnate? At this moment, the black lines continued to climb. 1/4, 1/3, 1/2. The light did not stop and continued to climb. Finally, at 2/3 of the way, the light pillar stopped. Only 2/3? Boss Dai, you can't do it. I'm definitely stronger than you, Xiao Wu said provocatively. Previously on the ship, Xiao Wu had said that she wanted to directly enter the strongest assessment. Although it was just a casual remark, he couldn't lose in terms of momentum. I'm definitely stronger than Boss Dai, Ning Rongrong said. As he spoke, the black light on the pillar began to spread upwards again. This time it was very fast. In an instant, it had covered the entire seahorse holy pillar. In the next second, a total of 6 black, lightning-like rays of light shot out and instantly appeared in front of Dai Mubai, turning into a 6-sided polygonal light screen. Everyone could see that each layer of the light screen was flashing with special golden words. It's the 6th black test. It's 2 more tests than me. He's dead meat, Douluo mumbled. As he spoke, the 6 light screens turned into rays of light and flew into Dai Mubai's forehead. Finally, they turned into a black hexagram mark. At this moment, Dai Mubai was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. His brows were slightly furrowed. It was obvious that he was receiving some information. At the same time, the black light on the seahorse holy pillar slowly faded and returned to its original state. Douluo's eyes were filled with complex emotions. He looked at Dai Mubai as if he was looking at a dead man. Tang Sen couldn't stand such a gaze. He couldn't help but ask, Senior, what is the 6th black test like? Can you explain it to us? Douluo didn't keep them in suspense. He nodded and said, the tests given by the sea god are divided into different grades and difficulties. It's the same as the colors of the soul rings. From the lowest to the highest, it's the white test, yellow test, purple test, black test, and the top red test. Generally speaking, the sea god will give out different grades of tests based on each person's aptitude, potential, and strength. The contents of the test will appear in the light screen just now. Only the examinee and the examiner will know. I'm your examiner. Passing the different grades of tests will give you different privileges on the sea god's island. Of course, the harder the test, the more privileges you'll get. Among these tests, the white and yellow tests are the easiest. There's only one test. As long as you pass it, you'll be considered a success. When it comes to the purple test, there will be 1 to 3 types of tests. After that, it's the black test. There will be 4 to 6 types of tests. The 6th black test is the most difficult of them all. I can tell you that in the past 100 years, there have been a total of 31 black tests. Only 7 of them were passed. The other 24 were failures. And the result of failure is death. Douluo paused for a moment. Then he continued, I'm lucky. I'm one of the 7 people who passed. Among the 7 of us, only Sea Dragon Douluo passed the 6th black test. He's now the strongest among the 7 of us. He's already reached rank 95. All right, as long as you accept the Sea God's test, it will start immediately. The requirement for the black test is that you have to complete 1 test every year. The next test will only appear after you've passed the test. If you don't have enough time, you'll die. I can tell you very clearly that I passed the 4th black test. It's the easiest of the black tests. Furthermore, the requirements for us Sea Soul Masters are very lax. We're only required to pass 1 test every 10 years. Even so, I barely managed to pass. You're the first Soul Master to take the 6th black test. With his strength as a soul emperor, if he wants to pass 6 tests in 6 years, he'll definitely die. After hearing Douluo's words, everyone fell silent. It wasn't that they were afraid, but that they were thinking about the path of the test. They were already thinking about how they could surpass Dai Mubai and obtain a stronger test. After all, Douluo said that the test was a test of a soul master's potential, aptitude, and strength. In other words, the harder the test, the greater the potential and aptitude of the person who took the test. In the past, when Shrek's 7 monsters were talking, no one other than Tang San was willing to submit to anyone. Now that they had the Sea God's test, they could distinguish who was stronger. Everyone's aura surged. Me. I'll be second. I want to surpass Boss Dai. Ma Hongjun immediately jumped out and said loudly, "The seahorse Douluo." He said all this to persuade the remaining people to cherish their lives and not throw their lives away. He didn't expect that it would have the opposite effect. Not only did he not see any fear on their faces, but they all looked excited and expectant. It was very strange. "Don't you want to reconsider?" he asked again. "No. I want to see who's more talented between me and Boss Dai," Ma Hongjun said excitedly. He took advantage of the fact that Dai Mubai didn't have time to care about him. Otherwise, he would have been beaten up again. The seahorse Douluo sighed with emotion. "You youngsters are truly courageous." To be honest, he had never met a group of people like them. They were too courageous. It was as if they didn't have fear in their hearts. "All right, come over here." He didn't waste any time. After Ma Hongjun got into position, Douluo activated the holy pillar again. The blue light appeared for the second time. As it enveloped Ma Hongjun, the color started to change. Just like Dai Mubai, the color changed very quickly. It turned black in an instant. Moreover, the lines were climbing rapidly. In the end, the black light on the holy pillar stopped at 2/3 of the way up, just like Dai Mubai. It's the 6th black level examination again. Douluo sighed. As he spoke, a hexagram mark appeared on Ma Hongjun's forehead. Like Dai Mubai, he sat down with his legs crossed. Initially, Douluo thought that after the 2 consecutive 6th black level examination that almost guaranteed death, the remaining people would be fearful. However, he realized that they were still looking forward to it. There was no change at all. Then, Oscar stood up. "I'll be third. I hope I can surpass Fatty." Seeing this, Douluo didn't say much. He quickly activated the holy pillar. Soon, the results were out. After the light receded and the black hexagram was engraved on Oscar's forehead, he did not immediately sit down cross-legged. Instead, he shouted excitedly, "Ha! I'm also a black grade 6 examiner. I'm not weaker than Boss Dai." Douluo was speechless. These young people are rushing to reincarnate, yet they're still so happy. "I really don't understand." "It's my turn." Ning Rongrong pushed Oscar aside and said, "Watch me. I'm definitely stronger than the 6th black level examination." The seahorse Douluo smiled and didn't say anything else as he quickly activated the seahorse holy pillar. 5 seconds later, a hint of astonishment appeared on the seahorse Douluo's face when he saw that the black light had broken through 2/3 of the barrier at an extremely fast speed. Could this be? As if to prove his guess, the black light broke through the top of the holy pillar. In the next moment, the black light turned into a bright red color. The light pierced the sky, and everyone on the Sea God's Island could see it. In an instant, everyone on the Sea God's Island saw the bright red light. The other 6 guardians of the holy pillar looked over at the same time. Their eyes were filled with shock. Together with Douluo, all 7 of them shouted at the same time. Top 7th level examination. At this moment, in the center of the Sea God's Island, inside a special temple, Poseidon slowly opened his eyes. He looked at the seahorse Saint Pillar with a trace of surprise and joy. It was obvious that this level of examination had shocked her. At this moment, under the seahorse sacred pillar, the person involved, Ning Rongrong, was excitedly showing off to the crowd. "I told you that I, Ning Rongrong, am definitely a super genius. I have taken the 7 top-notch tests. I am 1 level higher than Boss Dai and Fatty." After hearing this, Oscar hurriedly said to the seahorse Douluo, "Senior, Can I take the test again? I think I'll definitely be able to pass the 7th test. After hearing this, the seahorse Douluo shook his head. Everyone can only take one test. He then bowed to Ning Rongrong and said, Honorable lady, may I know your full name? Although there was only one level difference between the top 7th level examination and the 6th black level examination, one could definitely pass the top 7th level examination. Furthermore, the last time a top-tier trial had been held, it had been for the High Reverend. Now that Ning Rongrong had passed all 7 top-tier trials, she would become the High Reverend's successor. At the same time, she would become the future leader of the Sea God's Island. So the seahorse Douluo was very respectful towards her. My name is Ning Rongrong. Why is Senior acting like this? Ning Rongrong asked curiously. Oscar also said, yes, Senior. I'm only one level away from her. Why is there such a big difference? The seahorse Douluo quickly explained the reason, and everyone was envious of him. Xiao Wu couldn't wait and said, let me do it. I want to take the top 7th level examination too. The top 7th level examination isn't that easy. This is the first time I've seen it. Douluo was excited and couldn't help but chat casually. Xiao Wu smiled. Today, I'll let Senior see it for the 2nd time. Douluo smiled and didn't take her words to heart. He quickly activated the holy pillar. However, 5 seconds later, the seahorse Douluo exclaimed in his heart as he looked at the bright red pillar of light that rose into the sky once again. Normally, not to mention the top-level divine exams, even the black-level divine exams would only be held once every few years. But now, the black grade 6 exam had appeared 3 times, and even the top grade 7th exam had appeared twice. This was too shocking. Just a moment ago, he had been mocking Xiao Wu for overestimating herself. The clown was himself. Douluo wasn't the only one who was shocked. Everyone on the Sea God's Island, including the 6 title battle pet warriors and Douluo, were shocked. What? Is it the new year? The top 7th level examination had appeared in batches. I knew it. I, Xiao Wu, am a super genius, Xiao Wu said proudly. Ning Rongrong ran over to Xiao Wu and gave her a big hug. Ha, we're all in the top 7th level examination. In the crowd, Zhu Zhuqing clenched her fists. She was a little nervous. In fact, she had been nervous ever since Ning Rongrong had obtained the top 7th level examination. After all, she didn't care about anyone but Ning Rongrong. She was her competitor. Now that Xiao Wu had also obtained the top 7th level examination, she was even more nervous. I hope I can obtain the top 7th level examination later. Zhu Zhuqing encouraged herself in her heart.